Many of them have slept a great deal since the second round, John. I think they've been practicing, and I'm sure we'll start to see the field getting closer and closer. It's already very close, but don't forget, for majority of these runners, it's 8 minutes and more to complete a lap, worth repeating, 8 minutes and more per lap. So if you can find yourself a second or two, it's going to be a massive help. And the grids are looking really, really close after the three subclasses have done their runs. Of course, the big players are out on the circuit at the moment, just starting to wind up the speed. It's slightly cloudy this morning, wind buffeting in from the northeast. It's about 15 kilometers an hour, track temperature 34, but air temperature 24. So conditions are changing, but the wind, if anything, is good, is dropping that little bit.
Yeah, and new for this week, we debuted it in the IMSA category. If you're following us via radio-show.co.uk or radiolemans.com, if you aren't, why aren't you? All of the assets that you need is on one page. We've got sound and vision, although no vision at the moment as far as we can see here. It might be different on the YouTube version that we've got on the site. I'll check that in a moment for you. But we do have live timing and scoring as part of our offering. It was the thing that most people were asking. That's all on the page that is linked to from the front page of radiolemans.com or radio-show.co.uk, and I'll remind you, it's at RSL_studio, and the hashtag is DNLS, Digital NLS _RSL, DNLS _RSL. That'll get straight through to us here on Twitter. Going out to qualify for the big class, if you will, David Pittard for Valkenhorst Motorsport in the number 34 car. He has just gone out onto the Nordschleife. First out though was Martin Tomczyk for BMW Team Green Hell in the number 112. So he was the first one to get out there, and we can follow him on that timing with fully 12 sectors. Thank you, James, for all the hard work that you've put in over the last few days to make sure that we've got full TNS, and we're making that available, exactly the information that we see in the booth. If you go onto our page and if you click onto the link on the front page, that will take you through to the DNLS page. There you'll see the timing and scoring link, and if you go to the little graph on the timing and scoring link, you can then choose how you want to see it in a pop-out. There's even some strategy pages as well, exactly as we see it here in the studio. So 7.5 minutes just under still to go in this qualifying session, and we've still not had a time through. And talking about this, Bruce, to the guys from BMW, when we spoke to them at the end of the race a couple of weeks ago, after the race a couple of weeks ago, should I say, our VCO Victory Circle interviews on Midweek Motorsport, really only get one lap here, so you've got to be on it straight away.
On it straight away, but imagine how galling it is. You haven't even got onto the Nordschleife. You're doing the Grand Prix, part of the Grand Prix loop, and you make a fumble, you make an error that will hang over you for the rest of the lap. But these drivers, as we say, have been practicing, and I think I just want to highlight the winners of the last round. Williams Esports, Sami Matti-Trogen, who started from pole position, and the Finnish driver, and Dominic Steib for Williams Esports. Obviously, they know their esports incredibly well. This weekend, they've been joined. They've got Eduardo Mortara hopping aboard their Audi R8 LMS, and he's the one who'll be the first driver. He's the one who'll be going to see if he can make it another pole position. But these guys were just fabulous in the race. And I think we heard from several drivers. You've mentioned it already when talking about, I think it was the 911 Cup class. If you have damage during the race, it can really hurt you. It's a 4-hour race too. So it really is about keeping it super, super clean out there on the circuit, not just in qualifying, the whole way through. But I must say, particularly Sami Matti-Trogen was super impressive last time. He's the gold standard, but we're another fortnight along, and who knows how much other people have been practicing and whether anybody can get near his pace.
The skies look relatively clear at the Nordschleife, with a gaggle of BMWs and ENG GT3 Mercedes-Benz out on the circuit at the moment. Augustin Canapino for the Marla Racing team has become the first driver to go through and start a lap on the 186. That is the Audi R8 LMS that he shares with Alex Arana, who was a bit of a star a couple of weeks ago, and these two have formed a pretty solid team. So he's the first to actually put a lap time in, but that would have been his outlap, 7:51.436. Following him through was Phil Ellis in the HTP Winward number 48, and Phil will be starting the car as he's qualifying. It's Marvin Dienst and Jack Sedgwick to follow him. Phoenix Racing has Matt Hoffer in the number 5, just gone through in 3rd. Remember, these were straight out of the pits times kind of thing, so they'll have gone round the Grand Prix circuit and then gone across the line to start a lap straight out the pits around the Grand Prix circuit. That's potentially how you can get 2 laps here rather than just the 1. So it's Marla, HTP Winward, Phoenix, Adrenaline in 4th position at the moment in the 1-2-2, and that is the Adrenaline Motorsport number 1 team, David Gresner and Robin Stoll. They'll do stints each. We mentioned this last time around, but we do have the order in which the drivers are going to get in the cars, which is great. And helps us out, although in fairness the timing and scoring changes it pretty quickly, but at least we know which way. I'll pop again, just underline a few people. Richard Westbrook for Phoenix is teamed up with Mike Rockenfeller, I'm sure that is, although it says Dockenfeller on the entry list. Kevin Falk doing the last two stints. Christopher Haaser with Patrick Niederheiser and Jens Althaus is in the car collection number 33 Audi. Mikkel Jensen and Christian Cronjes, that's a heck of a team in real life, and in the virtual world, in the second of the 2 Falcon Horse Z4s, we're still racing here, and the other team is Sam Michaels, Scott Michaels and David Pittard in the 34 car. Phil Ellis we've mentioned, Mirko Bortolotti for Audi with Kenneth Gulbranson at the second part of the race. Dries Van Tor will start and finish the other of the team WRTs. That's the 88, the 99 SP9 Audis. Dominic Baumann, another name you'll know from the real world, the team Husingveld number 101. Bruno Spengler starting the 107 team BMW Bank. Jesse Kron for VRS Coanda Sim Sport, his BMW stablemate. We've mentioned Mortara and Dominic Stibe. Dominic was very impressive. Sami Matti Trogan is listed on that car, but Sami Matti wasn't sure whether he would be racing. But he is listed on that car. That was the winners from last race end for the Williams E-Sport. Tomczyk Klingman together. Tomczyk and Jens Klingman in the 1-2-2 BMW Green Hell team car. The junior team is Max Hesse and Dan Harper with Neil Verhagen. So some big names out there. Philip Eng, who I was having a fabulous run at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca on Thursday night until he got caught up with a back marker while he was in the lead. It was the Compass Racing car from memory. He's in the BS Plus competition car with Alexander Voss. Now Alexander Voss, is a very, very handy sim racer, and he's the consultant, if you will, for all of the BMW eSports drivers. So we've got some tidy drivers out there, Bruce, today.
Now, a busy enough day for any of them, sharing a 4-hour race with qualifying, and they did practice earlier. But which one of the drivers in the top class is doing a half marathon today? There's one for you.
Oh, that'll be a BRDC member.
Very good.
Sam Bird has done a cracking job in setting this all up. Sam Bird up in God's country in the northeast of England. They're doing it solo, of course, and they're raising money for NHS charities here in the UK, and they have been asked to do it as a solo effort. So that'll be a BRDC member. I'll leave you to go through the entry lists, dear listener and viewer. By the way, there are pictures on radio-show.co.uk at the moment watching BMW Team BMW Bank and Bruno Spengler qualifying in the dark grey and M Sport coloured machine heading out on the far side of the circuit. And how much have we got? That much? Well, 15 seconds. So the lap that you are on is the lap that will be counting for those drivers. It's still Canapino from Eduardo Mortara in second, Philip Ellis in third, then Jensen, Michael Jensen, Jesse Krohn, David Pittard, Max Hoffer, Fabian Schiller for Vodafone Team Get Speed. I haven't mentioned that car, the Black Falcon team. That has got Rafael Marciello and Philip Nola behind the wheel. And also should mention the Team AM Solutions Black Falcon car, Nico Bastian and Dirk Müller are teaming up there. So again, that's another very good real world team. So Bruce, coming into the closing moments, is there anybody that we can see who's putting in a faster lap? So I'm looking through Philip Eng. They've all got down under, the majority of them have got down under 8 minutes. I think Mark Tomczyk, the only one over 8 minutes on his qualifying in the GT3, but only then by 0.8 of a second, so barely over 8 minutes. Best time 7:51.476 for Agustin Canapino.
But of course, you look at the timing screens and what you see, everything is green because everyone is going faster than they did on their out laps. So, bar checking every single time, it's really hard to see who's making the moves at the moment. But yeah, we've still got Agustin Canapino at the very top of the table. But of course, they're all going to beat their times on that out lap because that came from a standing start. So we've just got to sit still, wait, and see if we can somehow, with all the incredible timing information, locate who is making the moves around this lap.
Oh, I've just realised that I've probably got a track map if I can dive in. I need another 27 screens. That's the problem with the Nurburgring Nordschleife. There is sometimes a surfeit of information.
Well, I tell you what, I had it, and then my screen with it on just crashed, so I'm just resetting that, just as I needed it.
Of course, isn't that always the case? I've reconfigured my part of the studio again this week to try and change things around a little bit and make it slightly more user-friendly. But I've still not quite got all the screens in the right places in terms of where they are in relation to the second screens from the computers, in relation to where the computer is. And I keep moving the mouse the wrong way and losing my pointer. Nothing worse than losing your pointer. Canapino's just gone through. Has he improved? Yes, he has, by about a second. Just one thing, Bruce, I don't think it would have been a standing start, as it were, because they would have gone...
No, they're rolling out of the pits, in fairness.
Well, they've gone out the pits. They'll have done the short lap round the Grand Prix circuit and then popped onto the end of the start-finish straight across the line, I reckon, is what they will have done.
In fact, I now remember reading that in the rules. I nearly forgot.
Yeah.
That's quite right.
No problem. So Agustin Canapino for Marla Racing Team took about a second off his time. Philip Ellis coming through next for HTP Winward. I should say that Eduardo Mortara has put the fastest first sector in. That's on the Grand Prix loop, of course, or the short Grand Prix loop, as we tend to see in these races. No doubting when you hear some of these engines going through how much work has gone into the modelling of these cars. I was chatting with the guys from iRacing earlier in the week. In fact, yesterday we did a debrief on the IMSA racing that we had earlier on this week, and they were saying it could take 6 months once they get the go-ahead to model a car in iRacing. They laser scan the car to literally a millimetre, then they take all of the data from the engineers of the car, so nothing's guessed, so the setups, how things work on the car, all modelled, and even the sound is recorded, digitised. So the bark of the V10 Audi going through the start-finish line and onto another lap, that's the 109 car at the moment, is that of the Williams eSport Eduardo Mortara. Did he improve his last lap? He did, to a 52.002.
7 minutes remaining, John, so they do have this chance for the following lap as well. So we'll see how they scramble, but at the moment, obviously, Agustin Canapino at the top of the pile.
Yeah, still that overall best, 750.636. Dominic Baumann set a new personal best, but he's a little bit further down the field. It's a 757.165 for Baumann. Coming towards the end of the lap, the Mikkel Jensen Valkenhorst number 6 car in the Total colours, just heading out towards the Gallows Head corner now and onto the Dottinger Hohe as he rounds that tricky, really triple apex corner, although it's the last apex that's the important one. That's the one you want to nail to get maximum speed. Running down alongside, parallel to the public road, and beyond that is Gottlieb Daimler Strasse, where all of the test centres are for the major manufacturers and tyre manufacturers who use the Nurburgring Nordschleife. As it was originally constructed, of course, back in the 1930s, it was never meant to be a racing circuit. It was built as a test facility, also in fairness to try and get some of the manufacturers off the roads, but built to replicate the atmosphere and the conditions of the mountain races, the Eifel Rennen round the areas. Huge infrastructure project that was put together back then. Here comes the Valkenhorst car, and Mikkel Jensen goes up into, or stays in 5th position. Is that a new best for him? Yes, it was 54.0, Bruce, for him.
Yeah, the one we really need to watch is Philipp Eng in one of the handful of BMW Z4s. He's the BS Plus competition runner. He's 3rd fastest at the moment, 1.8 seconds off the pace. I don't expect him to get onto pole position. That does seem to be something that belongs to the Audis. Last time around we had 2 Audis on the front row. At the moment we've got 2 Audis on the front row. But Philipp Eng is the best of the rest, and he's putting in some very good sector time. So he may yet scrape onto the front row, but 1.8 seconds down on the ultimate pace, that's a big ask. I know the lap's 24.5 kilometres long, but all the same, he's doing a grand job.
At RSL_studio, please, if you don't mind. Hello to D. Tolzeko. Virtual racing better than no racing. I tell you what, if you haven't watched this before, D, you're going to enjoy it, because this is proper racing. The cars and the track may be virtual, but the racing and the competitive nature of what will be going on in the next 4 hours or so. Is it a 3-hour race today, Bruce, or a 4-hour race?
I think I'm down for 4 hours.
Right, okay.
Maybe I'm staying on an hour after the end.
That seems reasonable. I think it was a 3-hour race the last time out, was the reason I say that, because it got split up into 2 45-minute halves, didn't it, roughly speaking. But D, everybody else, at RSL_studio, hashtag DNLS_RSL. David Walton's tuning in, loving the pop-out timing screen, feel like I'm back at the Brit Car Garage looking at data. Yeah, thanks to James for all the hard work he's put in recently to allow us to bring you that real-world feel to the virtual world and help let you follow along. Some strategy screens there as well, radiolemans.com, and follow the link on the front page to that. Effectively everybody on their last lap now. Morning to Sarah Rigby up in Crewe. No Bentleys or Aston Martins for her to cheer on, doing ironing this Saturday lunchtime in the UK. Welcome along, Sarah. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Just the sound of racing engines is fairly, I think, is somewhat comforting in this time of zero real world racing. It is the DNLS. NLS, of course, the new moniker for what we used to call VLN. VLN's still that association of racing clubs that put together the individual races in the championship. NLS Nurburgring Endurance Series in German, Langstrecke Serie, and D for digital, and powered by VCO, the Virtual Competition Organisers Association. And our thanks to them for their support of this and for our broadcast as well. Good work by everybody there. Looks like everybody's coming into the pit lane with the checkered flag out. And again, they don't have to do the full lap round the Nordschleife on the way back. They could, of course, once they get across the start-finish line, just quit out of it. But most people doing the extra in-lap, using the time, Bruce, to have another little run round the early part of the lap, being the Grand Prix track, which I think is pretty sensible, actually.
This was the thing that really amazed me, John, last time, 2 weekends ago, is just how they really, really treat it. Every little element as if it was a full in-the-metal race that they were doing. Of course, I fully understand how they go about their laps, but they are trying to eke every little bit of experience and advantage that they possibly can have.
True that.
But then again, on a circuit with as many corners, around 24.358 kilometres, everything they can find is worthwhile.
So I think that is complete now. I don't think there's anybody else left out on the track, although there's a minute remaining. Everybody seems to have finished their lap. So here's how it's going to look in the top class, which is SP9 GT3. It is the Marla Racing Team, Agustin Canapino's time of 7:50.636. And those of you who have got iRacing, by the way, go and try that. If you think, yeah, well, you know, just go and try that. I think you'll be pretty impressed. Try and keep it on the track, by the way, as well. And we'll talk about penalties a wee bit later as well. It's BS competition. It's Eduardo Motora, sorry, for Williams Esport, who will share the front row. There's two Phillips, Philip Eng and Ellis. And Bruce Jones, you were spot on. Philip Eng and Philip Ellis putting in a decent second lap and making up the two cars on the second row then for BS competition and HTP Winward. Then Valkenhorst and Vodafone Team Get Speed, Mikkel Jensen and Fabian Schiller. Max Hoffer and David Pittard will be on row 4, 7th and 8th. 9th and 10th, Jesse Krohn and David Griesner for VRS Coanda Simsport and Adrenaline Esport. Florian Bourdin and Marcel Markovic next up. That's row 6, Race Union on the inside there. Team BMW Bank, Bruno Spengler is with Daniel Harper. Harpert on the BMW Junior team. And that is 13th and 14th. 15th and 16th is Nico Bastian and Dries Van Toor. Mike Rockenfeller. Right. So Mike was supposed to qualify last time and didn't. It was supposed to be... who was it supposed to be this time? His teammate Richard Westbrook. But Mike has taken that qualifying duty, so he'll start alongside Dominic Baumann. Then Yannick Mettler, Jom Schmidt-Stade, Christopher Haase, Martin Tomczyk, and Nico Menzel are the following cars. So that's the whole field of the GT3s. And good news for all of us is it's very tight indeed, with the top cars in all the classes just a few tenths away from each other. Earlier on, the qualifying for the classes, Bruce, you were watching that unfold and saw some pretty decent driving. 911 Cup, Porsche 718, GT4s, and of course the TCRs.
Yeah, Josh Rogers was the star of the show in that. He put the Coanda Simsport car to the top of the Porsche 911 class, and but again it was very, very tight. But you have to absolutely deliver, as we saw with the top class cars. You get an out lap, one flying lap you might be able to squeeze in a second, but by and large you've got to just nail it, and Josh Rogers did that to top that class. But chased very hard indeed by those who were close to him. Indeed, Martin Asher, who was the driver who won the class last time, was third in class, so he's definitely always on it. And also Manthey Racing with Martin Kronka, they were second fastest, covered by next to nothing, the gap between them. So all seems fair and square at the top of that class, but racing is almost upon us.
Certainly is, Bruce, and we roll from halfway down the Dottinger Höhe side by side in groups, as we would do, much smaller groups. Of course, we've only got about a third of the cars that would normally be on the Nordschleife, but that makes our life a little bit easier. So Agustin Canapino with an all Audi front row for Marla Racing team and Williams Esports and Eduardo Matara on the 109 right alongside him. Then the two Philip Eng, the BS competition, and HTP Winwood. So that's BMW Z4 on the outside, and on the inside the dark colours of HTP Winwood. So used to seeing that car with the man filters colours, but it's in the dark colours here. As we get ready to go racing, we'll give you some news about penalties, etc. In a moment. But for those of you who know iRacing, 20 incident points before you come into the pits for a stop go, and then every 5 incident points after that. And we are green and racing. The track is clear, and Canapino and Mortara pulling away from the front of the field. Bright red Mercedes from Vodafone Team Getspeed trying to get in the mix there from row 3. Oh, and one of the Audis has gone wide, drops back down the field. Canapino from Philip Eng and BS Competition, and there's an accident in the middle of the field as well. Bruno Spengler's gone around in the BMW Team Bank car. That's the dark grey machine this weekend. Eng got the best of the starts from the second row, and Eduardo Motora was pushed down. Philip Ellis in there. Fabian Schiller was looking racy as well in the red and white Vodafone car. Right in behind him, the Valkenhurst Motorsport Mikkel Jensen car, as they're on the Grand Prix Strecker for the first time. And the car streaming out in the sunshine. Track temp a very healthy 36.7 degrees, make that 36.1 with the air temperature 24.5 degrees. A little bit of bumping and barging, and there's another one off further down the field. The bright red Audi. I think
well, this
that
is
was
much
Bertolotti.
rougher than it was last time, but certainly Philip Eng, history does repeat itself, and he's moved up again, gaining positions at the start. It's BMW up into second place, but for Bruno Spengler, all the success the other side of the pond, if you will, early this week for BMW. He was one of the two that went out as they got into the Mercedes arena. So chagrin, but it's Audi leading the way. Agustin Canapino making good in that pole position, chased by Philip Eng.
Philip Eng in the blue and grey BMW Z4 on the hats and back for the first time, as the Porsche 911 Cup cars with Joshua Rogers and the VRS Coanda Sim Sport number 208 gets ready to lead the second tranche of cars behind their safety car. It's Bruce Jones and John Hindhaugh for Radio Show Limited on the comms from our global broadcast centre, practicing isolation. Don't forget, stay home, stay alive. Oh, front wheels of the Z4 just getting a little bit airborne, heading over the Flugplatz, so called, not because the cars get airborne there. There used to be a glider strip on the top of the hill just over there as the Porsche Cup class gets underway. And Josh Rogers gets a great start in the VRS car. That's the red, white and black car from the driver's right. Coming down the inside from row 2, the black car is the Asher Racing machine. Martin Asher, the 227. Manti Racing in there as well for Martin Kronker. And going through there, the 250, Patrick Shilikowski for Black Falcon Team Identica in the very pretty coloured car. Really some fantastic liveries here, but once again, Bruce, it is the Paulson. Oh, turned around further back down there. That's one of the VRS Coanda cars. That must have been Mac Backham who got turned around there. His teammate leads from pole position. Was that Backham? No, it wasn't. It was Mario Uri. Now, Mario Uri had a great race last time around. He's in the Sim Racing Academy team, the 291 car. But the pole sitter once again proving, Bruce, the value of being at the head of the field.
Yes, and the flip of that is for Mario Uri. He was down in 9th on the grid. I was just about to warm up and unleash the sentence. Well, this time around they're nice and clean through the early section of the lap, and suddenly they proved they weren't. Right, let's take a look, because the third batch of cars is blasting off. It's the Porsche 718 GT4s, the Caymans. They're looking a little more feisty as they run down to the first corner. 3 abreast doesn't really work, but the 2 cars from Core Sim Racing at the front, keeping it clean, keeping it tidy. They go in first and second to the opening corner, and they emerge in those positions with Carl Janssen, who was so strong in the latter stages of the race, I think the one at the front.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Audis will come through in a moment. It'll be Oliver Ackerman and the T3 Motorsport to lead these through, but the gaggle of GT4 Caymans on the Grand Prix Strecker with the 2 core cars, distinctive with the white and orange paintwork on those cars. In third position, it's Team Huizenfeld 301 for Leonard Hartenberg. He's just managed to break away from fourth place, which is another one of the VRS Coanda Simsport cars. That's Jodi Takkanen, as they then settle themselves down for, yes indeed, it is a 3-hour race, by the way. Should have pointed that out before. So we'll be here for another 2 hours and 55 minutes. Here comes the TCR class. All Audis at the moment, of course. That's the way that they've been modelled at the moment. And Oliver Ackerman from pole position then in the multicoloured car. Alongside him, one of the Sim RC machines, and Team Huizenfeld 404, Michael Schuttler in there as well. 476 around the outside is Sim RC TCR, that yellow and black machine. Great addition to real world as well. That's the core car going wide in the background there. So great addition, as I was about to say, the TCR cars in real world as well as in the virtual world to racing on the Nordschleife. They really do work very well. A lot of downforce on these cars, front wheel drive. All have to be 4 or 5 door machines. Ran about 320, 340 horsepower. Let's have a look at the VCO replay out on the circuit. For those of you watching the pictures, there was a big crash in the midfield at the front of the top class, should I say, and that, I think, again, is Bruno Spengler, is it?
Well, he was the one who went down to the back of the pack at the opening lap, 1-1-8. Is that? We know that Jesse Krohn was shuffled down the order in the stadium section at the start, but we also know that Agustin Canapino is leading the way the first through, getting clear Philipp Eng, but very busy down in the pack. Now we're getting some moves up towards the front of the field. Agustin Canapino, Philipp Eng is now in the lead of the race from Philip Ellis, so that is the battle. It's the BMW ahead of the Mercedes, and Williams Esports, Eduardo Mortara is third. So what's happened to Canapino? He's fallen to 9th place.
So obviously involved in some kind of issue through the Caracciola carousel. It's BMW leading as they head on to the higher part of the track. So that's where the mistake happened. So was
he
that
lost 7 seconds in sector 8.
So was that the leaders that were having the problem then, that we saw that replay?
I think Canapino must have gone off on his own. Yes, he made a mistake.
Well, there's the lead changed again. Bruce coming out of the Kleiner carousel because it's a mistake by
the replay. That was Eng getting it wrong in front.
Correct.
For Philip Ellis. So Philip Ellis now leads in the HCP Winwood Mercedes,
courtesy of staying out of trouble and staying on the track. And remember, every time you go off, you get incident points. Once you've amassed 20 incident points, you will get a stop and hold or a drive-through penalty, and then every 5 after that. The bright red Mercedes side by side with Audi on the Dottinger Höhe at the moment. That's Fabian Schiller and Eduardo Mortara. Mikkel Jensen for Valkenhorst on there, as well as we get 3 wide. The red, white and blue BMW providing the tow at the moment for the bright red Vodafone Get Speed EMG, and there's a touch there. That's another big off as Williams Esports driver Mortara.
That's the car that won last time, John.
And now he's got to rejoin carefully. Now surely he's going to go straight into the pits now. He's got right rear suspension damage. The car is crabbing. His steering wheel on his sim rig will not be straight. There was a certain inevitability about that, to be honest, Bruce, as those 3 cars just didn't want to give way. It was the slightest of touches from the Get Speed car onto Mortara. Mortara was moving around, in fairness. Looked like that Audi wasn't quite as planted as the AMG and the BMW around him, and Mortara is into the pits for Williams Esports.
He'd already lost momentum going up the straight, and I would say he moved across a little bit as the Mercedes tried to go through.
Great.
But the crux is that Philip Ellis is leading in the HTP Winwood Mercedes. Philip Eng, who's been right at the front end as 2 of the cars are in the pits, is second, and Mikkel Jensen from Walkenhorst Motorsport up into 3rd place, number 35, one of the 2 Walkenhorst BMW Z4s. But last time it was a fairly straightforward race. This time we're shaking the dice in the cup, I think we could say.
Well, and also
there's a lot of pressure.
Also been a bit of a shake-up at the front of the field as well. There'll be a little cheer going out in Altendienst, which is where HTP Winwood are based in Germany. They've got the US operation as well, of course. Bryson Russell Ward, Christian Hohenadel, I'm sure all tuned in. Hi guys. Loved the trip that we had down to there before the lockdown. Come and see you again once this is all over. Fantastic facility that they've got down there. Battle for the lead then. Heading out onto the hats and back again. Top 4 absolutely together. Ellis, Eng, Jensen, Schiller. That's HTP Winward from the BMW in second and third. And then the Vodafone teams get speed EMG. So a nice spread of manufacturers there. BMW 107, by the way, Spengler has continued running, and Spengler is in 15th position, just behind the Audi of Mirko Bortolotti, the number 88 car.
The driver in the top quartet with the pace is Philip Eng in second place. Philip Ellis in front of him, the HTP Winward Mercedes. As they turned left, just got onto the start of the Nordschleife, he made a mistake. Actually, it profited him because it meant Eng had to back off. Mikkel Jensen in the second of the BMWs right now on his tail, but Eng is starting to drop him and he's going back towards the leader. But that first 4 ahead of David Pittard in the second of the Walk on Horse Motorsport cars, they've got about 1.5 second advantage over him. So they're making their break. As we've seen, this is a race that's going backwards and forwards literally with every half lap. But at the moment, it's Ellis from Eng, Jensen from Schiller. They're the top 4.
At RSL_studio, hashtag DNLS_RSL battle in the Cup classes. 2 Porsche Cup classes here for 911 Cup cars and for the GT4 718 Caymans. And it's Asher versus Kronker for Asher Racing and Mansai. Some debris on the circuit there. Asher Racing, the black and dark red car, holding on to second position at the moment. Leader in that class has got away just a little bit as these two are battling, and that leader is Josh Rogers for VRS Coanda Simsport in the 208 car. He's just disappearing out of sight at the moment. These two just ahead of Ricardo Castroledo for the second of the Coanda Simsports, and his teammate Mac Backham is the third VRS Coanda Simsport Cayman. There he is heading down that hill with that very distinctive colour scheme. Leaders already on the far side of the circuit as the time ticks down to 15 minutes gone, and at the front of the field Philip Ellis leads by half a second only from Eng in second place. BS Competition chasing HTP Winwards. Valkenhorst in third position.
I think the thing that's really striking me, John, is the fact that last time, bar David Pittard finding a car in front of him and flipping one of the 2 Walk-on-Horse BMWs, it was a really remarkably clean race. But this time, maybe the drivers have got more confidence as they've considered the machinery, considered what they need to do. But certainly a lot more aggro out on the circuit. Spins, contacts, and certainly for the Audis that started on the front row, not dream beginning. It's a Mercedes from a BMW, from a BMW, from a Mercedes. So you can see there's been a massive change at the top of the field this time around.
Adrenaline Motorsport still sitting, Adrenaline E-Motorsport in 6th position. That car is David Griesner. The top 6 only separated, well, let's call the top 10 separated by 10 seconds, which is nothing around the Nordschleife.
Philip Ellis sucking up all the pressure to lead the field for HTP Winward, but Philip Eng all over his tail. So still the black Mercedes from HTP Winward, then the BS Plus competition BMW tucked in behind. Then about 0.8 of a second because back to third place Mikkel Jensen, because he's coming under pressure from Fabian Schiller in the Vodafone team Get Speed Mercedes, the red one with the white flashes up over the bonnet, and the driver in 5th place, David Pittard, trying his best to hang on. He's the only driver in the top 5 who's got any space on the track to himself.
It's Bruce Jones and I'm John Hindhaugh. This is already shaping up to be a very different race, Bruce, than what we saw a couple of weeks ago with a couple of major contenders in the SP9, the GT3 category already in strife, with damage, with incident points. And we saw, didn't we, 2 weeks ago, Bruce, that really the cleaner you can be, the better chance you have. It's true in the real world as well, as they go through Brunchen for the second time of asking, with HTP still leading. Cracking battle in TCR as well, Bruce.
As you would expect. 4 cars, the lead 4 cars, the image of the top class in the field. 4 cars at the front of the field, almost nose to tail, 1.5 seconds, if that, covering the top quartet. Oliver Ackerman right in the battle with Michael Schürtler as well. They're second and third. They're the meat in the sandwich, if you will. And in 4th place in the class, just tucked in behind, is the orange Audi of Marcus Eichhorn. So really, really competitive. Wonderful onboard footage. Again, showing the dust being kicked up as they go down towards the kink that then leads them up to the chicane. And then, of course, they go out onto the Nordschleife, the loop that gives and gives and gives. So many turns for the drivers, around nearly 25 kilometres of circuit. And these drivers really know how to use every single centimetre of it. Now, at that point, they turn to the left in the old Nordkirche and then down towards the wonderful sweepers that we enjoy so much, John, on the screen and in the flesh. Hatzenbach.
Hello to Kevin Payne. Great use of picture-in-picture for those watching. The guys, once again, Nurburgring TV doing a great job bringing us the action so that we can talk about it for you. You can join in, of course, as well. All of the assets you need via the link on the front page at radiolemans.com, including our brand new timing service as well, with the strategy screens as well. If you click on the little graph icon on that page, there's all kinds of options, and that's what we're watching real life, and that's what you can watch here. Adds a whole different dimension as the leaders through the Tiergarten and back.
Different way around, John. We've got the BMW at the front. Philipp Eng made his move and has just got ahead of the ACP Winwood Mercedes. So Philip, but this time it's Eng ahead of Ellis, but they get to the end of the 3rd lap. 2nd lap, gosh, it's gone so fast. And then in behind, Mikkel Jensen ahead of Fabian Schiller. Is there a fight back from Ellis? He had been slipping and sliding a little bit ahead of the BMW Z4, but that's at the front. And the one I want you to watch, Agustin Canapino, who was 9th halfway around the lap. He had the problem when leading the race early on lap 1. He's now up to 6th and charging. His next target, David Pittard.
Fastest lap of the race, Mirko Bortolotti for E-Team WRT. He's just gone through in a 7:58.0. That's in traffic as well. That's not hanging around. Hello to Right Turn Lover, RTL in Central Europe. This just reminds me how much he says, I miss the fabulous Z4 BMW. And he's asking at Turner Motorsport, do you still have the livery files for it? It would look just fine on the Nürburgring. That's a great idea. And I know that the Turner boys are well into their digital racing as well. Robbie Foley, fantastic drive back through the field in the IMSA race on Thursday. Got another one in a couple of weeks' time. We'll be covering that live as well here on the Radio Show Limited network of sound and visual channels via IMSA Radio and IMSA TV. And that's Mid-Ohio next time around for that one. I have no idea how we're going to get 50 cars around Mid-Ohio. It's one of the shorter IMSA circuits. I think it's going to be interesting. 50 cars around here, over 15.5 miles in this configuration is pretty easy to do. And Mirko Bortolotti right in the mix. Further down the field, the 99 is Dries Van Toor. That's his teammate. So Van Toor sitting behind the orange black Volker Mercedes on the Hatzenbach. The car's moving around much more, I think, than we saw last time. A little bit of damage on the front of Dries Van Toor. He's ran up the back of someone and it's just deranged the bonnet a little bit. That will give him some incident points. It will give him some damage, and damage slows you down in this form of racing, just as it does in the real world. 1 or 2 clouds, but generally good weather in the Eifel Mountains at the moment, as the battle for 12th, 13th and 14th is about to be joined by the 15th place car, the dark grey Team BMW bank of last Thursday's winner, and now 2 for 2 in the IMSA series, Bruno Spengler. He's got some work to do though if he's going to get on the podium, never mind win this one, Bruce Jones.
Yeah, just as you were talking, I was looking, John, at the amount of damage. Nico Bastian is the driver who is in front of Mirko Bortolotti. The bonnet of his Mercedes a little bit crimped, as you can see. So Bortolotti, who's been biding his time, is now caught in the traffic, and he's going to see if he can make his move. But having a little half look under the bridge, keeping it safe, but the pressure's right on, flashing the lights, just like in the real world. And the driver who never blinks, there's Mirko Bortolotti, but he's got pressure from behind, and now he's all about to be passed. This is really, really tight down there at the At the moment, Nico Bastian hanging on to that group, Mirko Bortolotti doing his utmost, but it's a narrow stretch of circuit. Most of the Nordschleife is narrow, so you've really got to be sure your move is going to work.
Adenauer forced then as they came out of the foxhole, sitting a little bit further back. The 13th position car is that of Yannick Mettler, Racing Fuel Academy, friends. That's the number 154. This is getting very interesting indeed. Down through Callenhard, diving down now. Callenhard dropping down the hill. Easy to get out of sequence with that part of the circuit. Got to be so careful.
My mistake, John. That's not Nico Bastian in the Mercedes at the front of that group. It's the Racing Fuel Academy and friends. That's Yannick Mettler who's in front of Bortolotti.
Yes.
Tucked in behind, it's none other than former DTM champion Mike Rockenfeller in the Phoenix Racing Audi. So he is in that mix as well. Very, very tight indeed. And Bruno Spengler, as you mentioned, in the middle of the pack. The middle of 5, because behind Rockenfeller is Nico Menzel, very, very close indeed. So this quintet, yeah, you're quite right. There are a few clouds blowing around in the sky. But right now, they're looking pretty good indeed for the drivers out there.
Hello to Alan Prosser, king of the screen grab. Already got the BMW wheels off the ground from earlier on. What a run this has been for Josh Rogers for VRS Coanda Sim Sport. The number 208 Porsche 911 Cup car, resplendent in its red, white, black. Great livery, that car. Easy for us to spot the VRS team cars. He's got a handy lead of round about 4.5-5 seconds at the moment over Martin Krunke for Manthey Racing. Then Martin Ascher for Ascher Racing is just a second or so behind him. Then the two other VRS Coanda Sim Sports. What a team effort from VRS Coanda. Battle for second, as I say, about a second apart, or if you will, what's that, 7, 6 maybe 911's lengths between second and third as they head down into the foxhole.
It's been a very tiny little lap here from Martin Krunke, trying to drop last round winner Martin Ascher. They're fighting over in second and third positions in the 911 Cup class, but the last part of the lap, the last quarter of a lap, has been very good indeed for the red and gold car from Manthey Racing. And in the background, Martin Ascher thumping the curbs. He's not alone in doing that, but takes a couple of corners to really get it back together, John. Once you've thumped these high curbs, it pushes you wide to where you don't want to be. The following corner, about 4 corners later, Ascher, you can tell how hard he's pushing. He does it all over again, albeit on the outside of the turn. So the 227 Ascher Racing Porsche is being pushed super hard, but not to the best effect at the moment.
Meantime, in the 718 class, we'll keep our eyes on that. The gaps are opening, closing up rather, at the front of the field. Carl Jansen's been caught by Sindre Setsas. The two core racing cars, maybe they're working in unison, but they're going to have to get a wiggle on there, Bruce, because Team Huizingveld and Lennart Hartberg is only half a second behind them, and then it's a couple of seconds or so back to Joni Pakkanen, who's the VRS Coanda, which clearly are becoming, VRS Coanda seem to be becoming, certainly if this weekend's anything to go by, the AF Corsa of sim racing. They've got people everywhere.
Yeah, they'll need a spare name. They'll have to have something like, I don't know, Spirit of Racing? Oh no, that's been taken by AF Corsa for their overflow. But
yes, absolutely
exactly
right.
So.
Hello to Calvin Andrew, watching and listening on. Made a mess of the paint, he said. He's doing some painting of a model at the moment. I think he's too much concentration on what's going on here in the DNLS powered by VCO, but nice to know you're listening. Matt G says it's hard to believe they do this in the real world too. Racing on the Nurburgring Nordschleife is just as nutty in the virtual world as in real life. I think you're right, actually. Big draft down the Dottinger Hole. We saw this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? There is a massive benefit to being behind in the first part of the straight, and this is Winwood versus BS competition for the lead of the race into the team garden as they come up. Oh, big break in for the end of the barrier, and hope that you actually miss it by 6 inches or so. Coming to complete the lap, Philip Eng and Philip Ellis. No quarter asked or given. Will there be a little dive down the inside by the number 48 HTP Winwood car, that black, red and green machine? I don't think he's close enough to have a look down the inside into turn 1. That tricky curving downhill entry to the tight turn one. Bruce Jones. Oh, leader's got a bit wide.
Hasn't he just? But I tell you who's made a move, not one he probably wanted to do, was Agustin Canapino, got up into 5th place. Don't forget he fell down the order to, I think, 9th. He's just entered the pits, so he's tumbling down the order. Another car that's fallen is Mikkel Jensen. He was running in 3rd position for Walkenhorst Motorsport. He's now 5th overall behind his teammates. So the order is Philipp Eng, Philipp Ellis, Fabian Schiller. Now David Pittard is the better of the two Walkenhorst BMW drivers, with Mikkel Jensen in 5th and Florian Baudin in 6th. But this lead battle is beguiling. There seems to be a real point on the circuit at which the Mercedes is a tool to have, but Philipp Eng is not prepared to leave a chink. He's just keeping in front, moving from side to side as the track twists and turns. But his BMW Z4 front of the pack for BS competition. But what are we talking, John? Quarter of a second, maybe 0.4?
Yeah, exactly so. 3.5 tenths, Bruce. You're spot on there as they head on to the wider, more open spaces of the Grand Prix circuit. If you're new to racing on the Nurburgring Nordschleife, this is not a made-up track. This is real life. It's down to plus or minus a millimetre anywhere around the circuit. We're hearing that the real life NLS are exploring the possibility of going racing within a month or two, potentially quote-unquote behind closed doors. Although how you close doors in a forest, I'm not, if a door is closed in a forest and nobody see it, was it ever there in the first place? There's a philosophical as well as a logistical and potentially legal problem there. We'll keep you in touch with that, but when racing resumes in the NLS real life, we will be bringing it to you as ever, with Bruce Jones hopefully be able to get Johnny Palmer back on that as well. Over the Flugplatz then for the leader. A lot of people I know who perhaps don't know the history of the Nürburgring Nordschleife look at this track and can't believe it exists in real life. I've driven, I don't know how many laps around here in test sessions and on tourist laps. Test sessions are lovely when there's not very many of you out there and you can get a couple of laps on your own in something decent. And thank you very much as always to our friends at Aston Martin and the Aston Martin Test Centre, which is on that Gottlieb Daimler Strasse run just on the left hand side of the Dottinger Höhe, and being able to take some rapid laps around there. Should say hello as well to former Aston Martin employee Chris Porritt, who was the brave man who showed me round many years ago around the Nordschleife. He drove round the lap and then he was very brave indeed to sit next to me around my first couple of laps of the 15 miles or thereabouts, and everything that he told me I've tried to remember. Which curbs you can hit, which curbs you can't. The two leaders are down to Callan-Hard again, and this is that rhythm section that we talked about. Hit, miss, hit is sometimes what it's called here. You don't have to get that second apex, but the third one of the right-handers you absolutely do, because you're going into the hairpin all the way down through the gearbox for Philipp Ellis, chasing Philipp Eng. Short shifting up through 3rd and 4th down towards the bridge. Look at for the road, the access road coming in from the right hand side. That's about where your braking point is. Balance the car. Recently resurfaced around here. Used to be a nice visual marker for where you just lifted off and turned in on the resurface area, but that's gone now, so you have to pick something else. Now heading up to Bergwerk, just through that tricky left-hander where Niki Lauda had his huge accident in the final Formula 1 race around this circuit. And now you're climbing all the time from Bergwerk up the hill, a series of left-hand corners where you want to put as little on the steering wheel as you can. You don't want to be scrubbing off any speed at all, and the last of the left-handers tightens slightly, and you really have to nail that exit. It's so easy to drift off towards the grass and have a little panic lift there, and you lose all your momentum, which is exactly what Philipp Ellis has not done as he chases the leader. Stay away from the curbs on the next left-handers. They really unsettle the car as you're heading up towards the base of the carousel. Couple of little right kinks, and now to the base of the carousel. The start of the curb on the left-hand side is a good place to start your braking. Up to the carousel and that concrete rattling of your fillings as you drop in there, in for the end of the...
Alles begann mit 2 Freunden und einer Vision. Unsere Initialen stehen für Qualität und Fortschritt. Wir schaffen den Technologietransfer von der Rennstrecke auf die Straße. Wir fertigen Gewindefahrwerke, Sportfedersätze, Stabilisatoren, Distanzscheiben und Gewindefedern zu 100% in Deutschland. Wir arbeiten mit Herzblut und Hingabe für diesen einen Moment. Wir sind Motorsport. Wir sind H&R.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
Gearing on that car, absolutely perfect.
Super brave. Not just having taken the lead, Philip Ellis, but through the twist as he went into Tiergarten, he was as close to the edge as you possibly can go. That was real faith. But the inside line is being left open down into the lead. Again goes Philip Egg. So nice. Good under the braking in that BMW Z4. So BS Competition leading the way, but this is a cracking battle. And I'm just going to scroll down the timing screen for half a second. Remember we talked about Eduardo Mortara? His car started on the front row. He's down in, let me just take a little look, 43rd position.
Yeah.
And he's got Jesse Crone, who also was in trouble on the opening lap, also in the SP9 class, down in 44. So they're the fallen, but right now, the two who could fall are Philip Eng and Philip Ellis, chopping and changing in the lead of the race. Brilliant racing action. And they've got 3 and a bit seconds advantage over Fabian Schiller in the number 2 Mercedes.
Still the fastest lap is in the hands of Philip Eng. That was a couple of laps ago, 7:56.8, I think that is. Yes, it is. One of the smaller numbers on my timing screen. So the lead changing at the end of the previous lap and the start of this one. If you've just rejoined us on the visual side of things, no brakes on the audio, by the way, on RS1. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on there, or you're carrying us around. There was a big bit of drafting by Philip Ellis in the HTP Winwood car down the Dottinger Hoa, got round the outside just before the kink at the Bilstein Bridge, but then gave up the lead down into turn 1 as described by Bruce Jones, who is with me, John Hindorf, in the RSL Global Broadcast Centre at RSL_studio. If you want to get in touch with us, use the hashtag DNLS_RSL. Hello to Matt G. He said, I've only ever been once to the Nurburgring Nordschleife. Couldn't line up with any races, but I got a tourist lap myself, which was just fantastic. 2016, the last time that Matt was there. Hello, Matt. Nice to know you tuned in. Big week so far of virtual racing here on the Radio Show Limited network of channels. In a couple of weeks' time, we'll be at it again Thursday night. In 2 weeks' time, Mid-Ohio from IMSA, and then on that Saturday, another round of the DNLS here at the Nurburgring Nordschleife. Keep an eye on the live schedule screens, live schedule updates at the bottom of the homepage at radiolemans.com. You can subscribe to those in all the major calendar apps as well. RS1, RS2 IMSA Radio, and where we need it, RS3 as well, for extra content. Good battle for
Time
sixth.
for a little bit of housekeeping, John.
Right, go on.
Agustin Canapino, we know he started at the sharp end of the field in the Mahler Racing Team Audi. So sharp, it was pole position. Had that problem when leading about a quarter of the way around the opening lap. Came into the pits. His car is now in the hands of his Spanish teammate, Alex Arana, who's setting some very quick lap times. He's way off the pace. He's down in 17th. Not off the pace. He's off the top of the charts. But that's a car that will work its way back. But really, to block your copybook very, very early on. Still can't really remember exactly what happened. We had a flash replay of what happened when the car was leading the race, but we saw the aftermath rather than what led to that car going off. So hopefully that can be tracked. And,
I thought that was further down in the midfield because of how much carnage it caused. But I think that was a problem, either a tap for the leader or the leader making a mistake and then coming back on and causing all kinds of problems for the cars following behind. And that was heading up out of Bergwerk, out of Bergwerk and up towards the bottom of the run to the carousel. It looked where that happened. Big damage on the AMG of Yannick Metzler. He was in that 5-car train, wasn't he, earlier on, and Metzler's dropped down to 15th position. They were all battling at the bottom end of the top 10, weren't they, behind Nico Bastian and Mirko Bortolotti. Dries Vantu is still there, and Bruno Spengler's profited by what's going on there, Bruce, because he's now in the 107, the dark grey team BMW Bank Z4. He's up into the top dozen again.
Absolutely so. Yo-yoing hit forward and back, but Alex Arana, just mentioned him, his rear wing is really mangled. So I think this is where you need a pit interview with Philippe Eng when he gets out of his car, because he was in second place behind Agustin Canapino, who was leading from pole position. The car went round and we saw it, I think, coming back onto the track with 5 or 6 cars having already passed it, and a whole lot more. The momentum was lost, then the pit stop, and that's why it's so far down the field. But for Alex Arana at the moment, it won't be behaving in the way that he wants it to, because that wing is very, very bent on the driver's right at the rear of the car.
Yeah, he had set a couple of purple sectors on his previous lap, so it's one of those, go fast, fall off moments. You really can't afford to do that. TCR, brilliant addition, as we were mentioning earlier on, to this form of racing. Has done for touring car racing globally what GT3 and GT4 has done for Grand Tourers. And Jürgen Frank, Oliver Ackermann, Miguel Schottler and Marcus Eichhorn all together in pretty much line astern, and in 5th position the core racing car there in the white and orange colours is Marius Golombek, and he's pretty much on the tail of that, and dragging with him Full Send Racing, who were very competitive a couple of weeks ago, Steen Ledger, and in fact we can almost say pretty much the whole of the field. The biggest gap, I reckon, between cars in the TCR class at the moment is 4 seconds, and that's between 7th and 8th, and then there's another 4 seconds between 8th and 9th. Other than that, Bruce, they're all having fun, they're all battling in these Audi TCRs, the RS3 TCRs.
When commentating on the VLN, as it was in bygone years, up until the end of last year, but now the NLS for 2020, you know at any point the director can go, right, let's find some action, let's go to, where's the TCR class? And it just carries on giving. It doesn't matter if it's the first 5 minutes of the race or the last 5 minutes, and they are super. And I honestly can't think of a circuit that's better suited to TCR cars than the Nurburgring Nordschleife. Put them on somewhere short and not too spectacular, and they're good, but when you put them on somewhere like this, and the drivers really have to work, and they have to work at the moment because first and second places overall in the race just swept through them. The lead is still in the hands overall of the BMW of Philippe Eng, but Philip Ellis looking to strike back in the HTP Woodward Black Mercedes. That was great, neither gain, neither loss as they went through the TCR quartet, so well driven by the drivers in the TCR. They let the fastest runners through, and it doesn't seem as though it's interrupted their battle too much.
And that, of course, is one of the skills here, Bruce, it's not just about passing the slower cars or the other categories if you're in an SP9 GT3 car, but if you're having a battle like this, there is undoubtedly skill in allowing the quicker cars through without ruining your momentum whilst you're having a battle, in this case, for the lead of your class.
Oh, exactly so. And I think it really is a case of being absolutely sure if it's one quicker car coming, or 2, 3 or 4, because if you just see one coming over the brow behind you, you leave a bit of space for that. But if you've got its rivals tucked in under your tail, then you could really, really lose a lot of positions. You get a scramble out over the curves and you suddenly have an emergency. Talking of emergencies, Philip Eng is losing out against Philip Ellis at the end of the lap.
Exactly, as we saw before, a little bit later on that time, Philip Ellis had got that done before the Bilstein Bridge. The lap before, he's waited a little bit longer, but again the BMW punches onto the Grand Prix circuit so very well indeed. Wise to the move down the inside this time. Ellis defends in the AMG, the black car on the inside is the leader. Can the BMW go? Buffalo Gals round the outside, late on the brakes again for the Z4, but this time the shorter run to the apex and the tighter run off it benefits Philip Ellis, and that, Bruce, a perfect example of two drivers really giving each other racing room, and for the leader Philip Ellis learning from what happened the lap before. Quality stuff.
Really, really good. And I think the thing that's in both of their minds, they would have learned in the second round of the championship a fortnight ago, damage really hurts your car. You've got plenty of time for it to hurt you, so they're desperately keen not to touch each other, and they've been fully aware. Fabian Schiller in third place, I thought, would have gained more. He's 2.8 seconds down, because this battle at certain points slowing each other down, notably into turn one. But it's the Mercedes of Ellis on the BMW with Philip Eng, the red Mercedes, trying its best to catch up, and David Pittard is now getting a bit closer in fourth place. Fourth and fifth places for the Walk and Horse Motorsport BMWs, with Jensen in fifth, and Florian Baudin, the race unit entry car number 87, that's running around in sixth overall. He's in an Audi, and Florian did really well last time. It was, I think, one of the unsung stars of the race.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Bear in mind, dear viewer and listener, we've still got 2 hours and 20 minutes of this to go. It is following what we often say in real world racing, IRL racing as people say, not Indy Racing League, in real life. These endurance races nowadays have become effectively a set of sprint races tied together with pit stops, Bruce, and that's exactly what we're seeing here as we do IRL.
Yes, and we saw 2 weeks ago a roll of the dice. One of the teams had a very, very different tactic, pitted earlier than all its rivals, but didn't quite get it to work. And I think this time we are going to have teams really following the script, but of course with the stumbles on the opening lap, some have had their hands forced. And just again, I was looking at the 186 Marla Racing team, Audi, that started on pole position. Canapino started, Alex Arana setting good lap times, but he's so far down. It's damage limitation for them after the damage on that opening lap. But yeah, racing really, really, really hard indeed. Just look to see who else is making moves. Okay, Bortolotti now up into the top 10. Mike Rockenfeller to 12th. Bruno Spengler, heard of him? Yeah, he's the meat and air sandwich in 11th place overall. He's had a busy week, hasn't he, John?
Oh, he certainly has. He is... Ben Considouris, who's part of the team with Nick Damon and I, who were in the Haggerty Insurance Global broadcast booth on Thursday evening, was saying he watched Bruno Spengler at the end of last year in a iRacing online event, and he could barely keep the car on the track. Bruno has gone away, chastened by that, no doubt, and practiced. BMW have their mentor, Alexander Voss, in this race, and he is a online racing expert. He's been mentoring the real world guys, helping them set up their cars, and most importantly, set up their racing rigs as well, to give them the best feedback and make them feel comfortable. And Spengler has put the hours in, Bruce, and it seems to me, I was talking to Matt Griffin yesterday, assiduously keeping my 6 feet distance as he was walking the dog out in front of Hindhoff Towers here, and he was saying you have no idea how much time you have to put in to get as good as these guys. He was in a race online recently, and in a 24-hour period he did about 150, 200 laps of the circuit he was going to race in a couple of 3-hour stints. The guy who put it on pole position, who by the way was 1.2 seconds a lap faster on a more traditional racing circuit than Matt, had done 1,200 laps and spent 18.5 hours of the previous 24 practicing to get it right. There's no shortcuts to being able to do what these guys are doing right here.
No, and I think every time I watch an event like this, it makes it more and more plain to see. But also, I think the interesting thing for me is how quickly our pro drivers are starting to close that gap. But again, like in the real world, a tenth of a second can feel like night and day. They can be there or thereabouts, but they're not right on it yet. And certainly for the drivers, that the names you don't know, they're there for a reason. They're there because they haven't seen daylight hours for many decades now, have they? Or they haven't been alive for many decades, for at least a few years.
Well,
practice.
I daren't even consider getting involved in this because I would lose myself. There's no doubt, absolutely no doubt about that. So heading in towards pit stop time this lap around, I would guess if last week is anything, or last race is anything to go by, we're coming to complete 6 laps. 6, 7, possibly 8 laps would be 8 laps is pushing it, to be honest here. But you haven't had a full warm-up lap. We didn't see anybody. I think, Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong. We didn't see anybody do any more than 7 laps a fortnight ago.
I think I agree with that. Yes, I was just having
in the top class, I should say.
Yeah,
yes.
no, exactly so. The TCR cars can run a bit for a longer period of time, but of course they cover fewer laps. Again, the classes are just brilliant. Whenever you not that you wanted to look away from the lead battle overall between Philip Ellis and Philip Eng, the Mercedes in front of the BMW at the moment, but you look down to any of the other classes and it's very close indeed, with the exception of the Porsche 911 Cup class, which is all about Josh Rogers for BRS Coanda SimSport. One of their 3 entries. He's sitting on a part of 9 seconds from Martin Kronka, who continues to fight with Martin Asher, but gradually working his way clear. But you go down to the next two classes, the Porsche 718 GT4 Cup class, if you will, the Cayman class, and Carl Janssen leading that by just over half a second. There we are, proves the point. You go down to the Audi RS3s in the TCR class, and it's just under 7/10 of a second. Jürgen Frank for Sim RC TCR Racing, and then T3 Motorsport, Oliver Ack. So super close, with the exception of Josh Rogers, who's having a storming race, leading the Porsche 911 Cup class.
It's Bruce Jones, I'm John Hindorf. Core Sim Racing first in TCR. This has been a cracking battle throughout there, as Bruce rightly said earlier on, much like the real world. If you want some action and you're a TV director, all you've got to do is head down to the TCR class, or indeed the Porsche 718 GT4 Cup, that being led at the moment by the core car. And the core guys have done a cracking job again, along with the VRS Coanda guys. They are clearly one of the dominant teams in terms of getting their entries in and indeed translating that to track position, with core first and third in the 718 Cayman class. 718, of course, I know a lot of people look at these Caymans and the road cars, at least from this era of the 718, were all 4 cylinders, all the race cars, although the race cars kept the flat 6 engine, and now there is a flat 6 option on the road car as well, which is absolutely glorious, the new 4-litre non-turbo car. But the 718 moniker for Porsche, with a huge history in Porsche circles, going back to the RS61 from 1961. That was a 4-cylinder car. Pit stop times. And who's come in? Well, Alexander Voss has come in from BS Competition.
Philip Eng is in.
Philip Eng's
from
in.
second place. Don't forget, he was the one duking it out at the front of the field with Philip Ellis, but he blinked. He's pitted early.
Now, the pit stop times, you tyre and fuel separately. Is there a bit of damage on the front of that Z4? You know, I think there is. It just looks a little
front
bit...
right corner is a little bit loose by looks of things. Wouldn't be surprised. He was super close.
Up on the jack.
Just talking of
a new set of
damage.
tyres. Sorry, go ahead.
Alex Arana, that car we've seen, the number 186 Marla Racing Audi that started on pole position, just banged in. Bear in mind, that's with a damaged rear wing. Alex Arana, the Spaniard, has just lapped in a 7-minute 55-second lap. So he doesn't. No one's told him about the damaged rear wing. That's obviously what the situation is. Philip Ellis continues to lead the race, 4.5 seconds clear of the Vodafone team Get Speed Mercedes of Fabian Schiller. Mikkel Jensen was third at one point in his walk and horse motorsport BMW, fell down to sixth. He's now up to third again because also in the pits was the sister car. David Pittard made his pit stop.
Yeah, once again, great work at the front of the field as the pit stops, what we would call the scheduled pit stops, have started. Now, whilst that is happening, it gives us an opportunity to have a look at this great battle in Porsche 718 Cup. I was talking about the history of the 718 number, and by the way, it's always, in Porsche terms, it's always 718 is how you would say it, not 718 for the model number. If you're talking about 911 and it's a 993, you do it that way around. I'll come back to that thought in just a moment. Oh, now that was one of the Porsche Cup cars. Or was that one of the VRS cars that's just got in hard? 288 is indeed the VRS of Ricardo Castro-Ledo, who completely lost it on his own. Car got light coming through. I think that's the first part of the Flans Garden, isn't it? Yes, it is. And that is where the cars get light, and that was serious damage, and that car will have to come into the pit lane. Just let me finish this thought on the 718, by the way. Great work by all of our guys as the 288's in the pit lane with serious damage, as we mentioned.
Was in fourth place in class, John,
yes,
just
indeed.
to let you know, running well.
Including Bruce Jones, Andrea Maria and Joe Bradley on this week's Midweek Motorsport. Dedicate the first half an hour of the show to a tribute to Sir Sterling Moss, and who we've lost since the last race. He's unfortunately died since the last time we were on the air, so we pass on our condolences to his wife Susie and his friends, colleagues and many supporters around the world. But Sir Sterling Moss did his last competitive lap in a Porsche 718 RS61 at Le Mans on the 9th of June, Thursday the 9th of June 2011. So if you're wondering about the 718 and why that is such an important number for Porsche, right there, Porsche's down through the years recycling one or two of their numbers nowadays. But Sir Sterling Moss bought that car with his own money, having driven one in period and describing it as a perfectly balanced car. And that was the last competitive laps that Sir Sterling turned, was in a 718 RS61, very bright silver, mid-engined, mid-rear engined car at Le Mans in 2011. And again, thanks to everybody.
That was a run, John, that was bookended by me speaking to him in the pit lane for Radio Le Mans before he went out, and he was a little bit jittery, and then Joe Bradley spoke to him afterwards and
exactly so
got the bombshell that was that. He'd decided he was getting in people's way. It wasn't for him anymore. And Lady Susie just a sigh of relief and supported him over so many decades and over and out. Brilliant moment from Sterling. Chose the moment, found the moment and got it right.
Well, and so much about that was a perfect analogy for Sterling in his whole racing career. When he had the big accident on Easter Monday at Goodwood, he made a decision. He went out, he tried, he practiced on the same track that he'd had the accident. His times were good, but he didn't feel he was on it, and said, right, that's it. I'm not going to go back to top level racing again. Still did, obviously, down through the years, a few bits and pieces of other things, but that was his Formula One, his top level career over. And even in his retirement, it was, nah, that's it, I'm done. And, George said to him, is that official? Yeah, it's official. Not happening.
simply a competitor. He focused on two things in his life.
And of
One
course,
was motor racing, and the other was trumpet.
yes,
In his inimitable way.
and we're not talking about the afternoon flowery snack smothered in butter there either. And as far as the Nurburgring Nordschleife is concerned, of course, absolutely correct. We should be talking about Sir Sterling and his racing career whilst we're talking about racing, albeit in the virtual world here on the Nordschleife, because this was exactly the sort of challenge that Sterling loved to take as we continue to watch the battle in the 718 class side by side for the lead. Let's just watch this down towards the Bilstein Bridge, and the lead does indeed change as Leonard Hartberg goes through. The Heusingfeld number 301 to take the lead. And
yeah, he's been doing that for. He's been hunting him down for quite a while. Carl Jansen, they come into the pits. How often does that happen? Carl Jansen made a couple of little errors earlier in the lap, and Lennart Hartenberg, great move for Team Heusingfeld to take the front. Oh, he's been hit in the pit lane. He's been rammed up the back. Talk about action.
Just going back to Sister with a couple of people in the penalty box there as well. One of the Audis in there. Also, one of the TCR cars is the 468 DOT XE Esports. That's the Dennis Niederhart and Darius Niederhart car. I have to say I didn't see which of the Audis it was, and there's a Porsche Cup car he might have been in his own pit there as well. Just going back to Sir Sterling whilst we're getting this pit stop sequence going through, as I say, Bruce, you could almost have said that this circuit was built for somebody like Sir Sterling. He loved the challenge. He loved the fact that you had to be precision, literally millimetre perfect around here, and it suited his smooth, silky driving style, particularly in those days when the cars were nowhere near as reliable as they are now. And he had some fabulous results on the Nordschleife.
Oh, entirely so. But I think the bigger the challenge, the more that a driver's sort of super sixth sense can come into play, the more it benefited Sterling, because he'd been aware. And of course, what do you normally have thrown at you on the Nürburgring Nordschleife? Weather in very, very many different forms. But your point about cars being less than mechanically reliable, of course, when he scored some fabulous results for Aston Martin in the World Sports Car Championship here in the Nürburgring. And again, it was down to speed, but combined with so many other elements of Sterling's arsenal of abilities in a racing car. And so you couldn't push them too hard, but you had to push them as hard as you possibly could. And that's a balance that a lot of drivers didn't quite get right.
Steen Ledger, having brought the full send Racing 485 in for the first lap of this race. The Aussie driver. Hello to Barnaby Scarf. This is the best thing about the lockdown, they said at the moment. Very good.
We've got a change of the lead, because Alex Arana is now leading the race in the Mahler Racing Team Audi, the one that started on pole in the hands of Agustin Canapino. Very early change after the muck-up on the opening lap. The car went for a rotation and bashed the barriers. Alex Arana has been doing a storming job ever since, and he will probably be in next time around to make a pit stop. So it's a temporary lead, but first back to who knows where, back to first. Alex Arana's put it in a really, really good stint.
At RSL_studio if you'd like to get in touch, and Turner Motorsport online as well. A lot of people asking you for if we can get Robbie Foley and the Turner Motorsport number 96 colours on a Z4 around here. I know you've had a partnership with H&R for quite some time, and they've been instrumental in making sure that the DNLS as well as the NLS has been supported commercially. I use the hashtag, by the way, DNLS_RSL. Let's get back to the TCR battle, which is raging on as the pit stop cycle continues. Jürgen Frank for Sim Racing TCR by half a second from Oliver Ackermann, by 0.3 of a second from Michael Schürtler. Marcus Gollenbach fully 0.7 back, and then Michael Eichhorn, miles away, 3.3 seconds. That is a ridiculous battle for the lead in the TCR category in core sim racing, as well as the other big team, VOS, Coanda, all in the mix there as they're heading out. Team Hoixingveld, the 404 car, that is Michael Schurtler, having a look around the back of the 471 of Oliver Ackermann on the T3 Motorsports by BKP cars. They head out onto the Nordschleife, downhill left-hander, and then the sweepers of the Hatzenbach. One of the many places, the little 4-cylinder engine screaming away as they get passed by the Audi. Just one of the many places where you've got to get into the rhythm of the circuit, come from the middle of the road to the left-right flicks in the middle of the Hatzenbach. Can ride the curbs here a little bit because the speeds aren't that high, and there is a bit of block paving on the top of some of these. Then there's the right-left chicane before you head down the hill and over the bridge at the Flugplatz. And it looks like the leader was slightly disadvantaged there as the SP9 car went through. Now on the run to the bridge. Is there an opportunity here for Schuttler and the Team Hoixingveld 404? Double apex fast right-hander just as you're getting past by a quicker car, and that's put the second place car offline. Here's the opportunity that Schuttler was looking for. Closes up under the rear wing of the 471 Audi ahead of him. More traffic coming through as well. Oh, that's the core car. That was the fourth place car going up into second position. 2 positions made by following through the SP9, and immediately Schuttler tries to get around the outside as they come into the top of the foxhole. That was a superb bit of racing from the core racing driver Marius Gollenbeck, who saw the traffic and the opportunity unfolding as the faster cars came through, Bruce, and must have been super brave through that double right-hander after Flugplatz to stay on the tail of the Audi and get a little bit of aerodynamic advantage. Makes up 2 positions. Brilliant stuff.
Absolutely superb, but it's also about where the traffic is coming through, where the faster cars are finding you on the lap, and Marius Gollenbeck just hung back a little bit off the tail of that battle between Oliver Ackermann and Michael Schuttler. And as Schuttler spotted that Ackermann had run a little bit wide, Gollenbeck thought, right, I'm sticking to this line, and he just somehow made it to work. So tough luck for Ackermann. Michael Schuttler, no gain for him, he's in third place still, but Marius Gollenbeck in the core sim racing car, the white with the red and black markings. Well, they've all dropped away from the lead of Jürgen Frank in the class, but a real shuffle there. Great driving from all, but you could just see how little momentum they really had to have. And just to get it wrong, unfortunately there for Oliver Ackermann, still a little bit wide. Schuttler thinking, now's my moment, but not so fast, my friends. Marius Gollenbeck really made it work. Is he as quick as they are? I don't know, but he maximised the moment. Great racing.
Absolutely fantastic, and that's why we love racing on the Nurburgring Nordschleife, because that is an absolute classic bit of racecraft. You can be fast in a racing car and you can practice and get faster, but that sort of thing is instinct, and that was brilliant stuff. The situation sized up immediately by Marius Gollenbeck in the core sim racing TCR number 403. And talking to the guys in the VCO Victory Lane interview for of 2 weeks ago on Midweek Motorsport, and we'll be doing that this Wednesday as well, of course, speaking to the winning drivers after they've digested what's happened over the weekend, although we will have some live interviews at the end of the race. But they were saying it's actually very difficult, more difficult than real life, to race closely, just because of the vagaries of the simulation, Bruce. I mean, to our naked eye, the latency is negligible, but to a racing driver, half a tenth, that would seem an eternity to them. And again, talking to 1 or 2 people, including Matt Griffin, he's upgraded his monitor to a fast refresh monitor just so that what he's seeing, which of course is how you don't have the movement to judge what's going on with the car, just so that happens a little bit quicker. And so these tight racing incidents that we've just seen, to be able to judge that in the virtual world is actually more difficult and more skillful than it is in the real world. Marvellous stuff.
Yes, I heard similar comments at the end of the last race, and it really, you think it's never going to be entirely accurate, but when you're talking about 1 millimetre difference, but it's that tiny difference in lag, isn't it, of what you have, and there's no lag at all for the driver leading the TCR class. Jürgen Frank has got, unfortunately, 3 new friends. They dropped away from the tail, now they're back onto him. But again, it's these little elements you have to learn. I mean, certainly if it ever got me on a rig, I'd need to have a circuit that only had straights on it, I think. But around the twists and turns of the Nordschleife, and to race this close, this well, this cleanly, these are phenomenal driving performances here. And I think it's just a glory just to keep us in the swing of things, to see the Nordschleife on a sunny morning with drivers racing as hard as this. But every little element that a driver can add to their skills is going to pay dividends. But you think about how easy it is to make a mistake on this and just unravel all that you've done. And for these drivers, I think probably coming in at the end of this lap, they'll be aware of that. Just keep the concentration going and then hand over to your teammate.
Bruce Jones, I'm John Hindhaugh. Give you a quick rundown of what's going on at the front of the field. Alex Arana leads for Marla Racing Team by about 15 seconds from Alexander Voss in second for PS Competition. He's taken over the 189 car. Scott Michaels of Valkenhorst Motorsport. All this going on while there's fabulous battles going on at the head of the TCR field. Looked like there was a touch there. Oh, somebody off the track. That's why the core racing car, second in the class, had to lift off and just got a little bit of a love tap from the third place machine, Michael Schottler, Team Heusingveld. But the top 4, and we saw this a couple of weeks ago in TCR, Bruce, with the top 4 or 5 absolutely together for lap after lap after lap.
Yeah, what we also saw at the very end of the race is if you're carrying any damage, it really can hurt you. We heard Sindri Setsas telling us that he just couldn't hang on in the end, and his teammate Carl Janssen closed in. It wasn't because he was driving any worse. It's just simply the damage on the car was enough to slow him down, particularly down the long run from Galgenkopf through the Dottinger Hoa back to the end of the lap, and just couldn't live on the straight. So whatever he did in the rest of the lap, he was never going to be able to resist his teammate. And through came Janssen. At the end of the day, it was a good run for them. And where did they finish? I think they were second and third in class. Yes, they were.
Let me just run down the remainder of the top 10 for you in GT3. Christian Kronius for Valkenhorst Motorsport is in behind his teammate Scott Michaels. They're running half a second apart, 34 and 35, third and fourth. Fifth, Marvin Deist for HTP Winwood. That car has led the race, the number 48 machine. Then Rafael Marcello for Vodafone Team Getspeed, the red and white GT3. As Core goes to the outside in this great battle that we're watching, and it is keeping our attention in TCR, and they'll all come into the pit lane. All in the pit lane. Did the leader come in as well?
Yes, he did. He just lost the lead, fallen back in second place.
Right, okay, so that was a pass for the lead. I was just trying to work that out. So Gollenbach must have made a slight mistake there in the yellow TCR, because he had a little bit of room, but just giving up the lead for a moment. Nobody going into the penalty box amongst these leaders, and straight for tyres. Now, we heard from the TCR runners last time around, and the top 8, I reckon, 7, 8 from TCR, 9 of TCR have come in. Only front tyres for the TCRs. They leave the rear tyres on. Obviously, they've got to go for a full tank of fuel. We've got an hour and 52 remaining. So they've done an hour and 10 minutes. So one more stop it will be for those cars. Right, let's head back to the front of the field, Bruce. Alex Arana impressed us 2 weeks ago and leads the race.
Yeah, he was quite unhappy not to win last time around. Ended up in third place overall for the Marla Racing Team. He owes us a pit stop, though. Don't forget, this was the pole starting car, but it came in at the end of the opening lap. Agustin Canapino handed over to him. He's been setting good times. Effective leader is the BS competition BMW with Alexander Voss. But I just want to pick up the time in the pits. Voss was at a standstill, well, in and out, 44.6 seconds. The HTP Winwood Mercedes, started by Philip Ellis, race leader at the time. That was at a standstill for 1 minute and 8 seconds, so you can start to draw your own conclusions about what they did at the pit stop. So expect the number 48 Mercedes down in 5th place at the moment, and had Marvin Deeds to work its way backwards, because of course it can have a shorter pit stop at the second time of asking in this 3-hour race. So tactics are being played.
It's Bruce Jones, I'm John Hindhaugh, RSL Radio Show Limited, with the audio and fabulous visuals. If you're not tuned in already, or perhaps you've been moving around this Saturday and saving a bit of bandwidth on your mobile device, maybe even logged in whilst you're in the car, if you are able to move around doing some essential travelling. If you're not, hashtag stay home. And radiolemans.com, there's a link on the front page. I'll tweet it. All the assets are there as well. So if you're following RSL_studio, then I will quickly, even as I am speaking, tweet that right now. And the assets are all of there. I've tweeted it at Specutainment, that's that one, and I will tweet it at RSL_studio as well. And we've got live timing and scoring on that site as well with a pop out. You may need more screens than you had realised when you see how much information you can get from our timing screen. And once again, thank you very much to James for the hard work that he has done over the last few weeks to ensure that we've got the same sort of analysis as we get in the real world. So Alex Aranas leads, but as Alex Arana leads for Marlow Racing Team, but remember, as Bruce said, Augustin Canapin had a nightmare early on, having qualified on the front row and just did a 2-lap stint. So Arenas has got a couple of laps still to go. The low thrum in the background is that of Scott Michaels, Valkenhurst Motorsport car, just making contact with the 301 Team Heusingveld. Leonard Hartenberg, that's one of the leading runners in the 718 Cup class.
Just had a driver change, so in fact that's Andrei Rajkovic trying to settle in there, and you don't want a big BMW rattling into your door. But for Scott Michaels, loss of momentum, giving advantage to Alexander Voss, fighting over the effective lead, because of course Alex Arana will be coming in for a pit stop sometime soon, possibly the end of this lap, possibly the end of the next. But Scott Michaels sharing with Sam Michaels and David Pittard, who started the race. A little bit of a setback there, but again, it's about working the traffic. We talked about it before, John. We'll talk about it again. It's down to small margins, but it's just reading the situation. Didn't quite get where that Cayman was going to be. Possibly the Cayman wasn't exactly as far to the right as it could have been. A little bit of contact, and the gap has gone up from about 1 second in class to nearly 3 seconds in the advantage of Alexander Voss.
At least 3 places around the circuit where the cars get airborne. And the 34 BMW of Scott Michaels has just passed one of them now, coming down one of the fastest parts of the circuit before you get onto the long Dottinger Hohe, down Flansgarden, through the left-hander onto the Kleiner Carousel. Just some fastest laps, by the way. Fastest lap of the race is Alex Arana, 7:55.4. Manthey Racing, Tommy Osgaard's car has got the... No, it isn't, sorry. It's Mitchell de Jong's car's got the fastest lap in the Porsche 911 Cup. That's the VRS Coanda 208. In the 718 class, it is the leader, the core car, Baptiste Boudelier behind the wheel there with an 8:33. So just some idea for those of you who do have access to the Nordschleife on iRacing, and surely it would be the first track you make sure you had, the Nordschleife. Endless hours of fun, just not crashing for a whole lap, to be honest.
So that fastest lap of the race, Alex Arana, 7:55, and he did it with a damaged rear wing. The damage is still there. He's going around for what surely must be the last lap before he brings it back into the pits and hands over to Agustin Canapino, the Argentinian, all over again. But he goes around one more time. So Alex Arana setting some cracking times, and his last lap was 7:55, 3/10 down on the very best lap, his best lap of the race. So he really is driving supremely well, leading the race, but as we said, out of kilter will fall down the order. But he's doing all he possibly can to try and eat back some of the disadvantage.
Hello to Alan Bradley, building the Tamiya UK Yaris WRC at the moment, while watching this VCO powered DNLS Not part of the We Are the Race series, this one, Alan, but they've got plenty going on this weekend, and they've got a pretty decent e-racing schedule on their site as well if you want to follow it. They've got their own championships. This is not part of one of theirs, but as I say, they have a pretty decent schedule of what's on when if you want to follow some more digital racing. And hello to our friends at We Are the Race.
Just doing a little bit of analysis of the lap times. That extraordinary second lap of 7 minutes 55 seconds from Alex Serrano, the second fastest lap of the race. But that lap alone was the best part of 7 seconds faster than any other driver out on the track at the moment. Yes, he'll be cutting back a few of the seconds that were lost, but it was a huge disadvantage to fall right down the order after spinning out of the lead on the opening lap in the hands of his teammate Agustin Canapino. But Arana is doing all he possibly can. Fabulous drive. The battle for the walk and horse motorsport BMW is effectively in second and third positions, but third and fourth on the track. It's Scott Michaels in 34. That was the one that was slightly delayed by clipping the back of a Porsche Cayman. And now Christian Cronjes, in real life a winner of the Spa 24 Hours, gets right onto his tail in the sister car, 35, hunting down 34. And Christian Cronjes really getting a good move on. He's one of the quickest drivers out there at the moment. The Norwegian enjoying it in the woods.
Very good. I see what you did there.
It was a bit weak, but I had to have tried.
No, I like it. I do like it. HTP Winwood then. Philip Ellis having started that car. The dark coloured machine. Did lead the race briefly. Two BMW side by side, including...
That's Volkenhorst cars.
Yeah, that's the two Volkenhorst cars. The red, white and blue machines. Was that a change of position there?
Yeah, it was. Cronjes hunted down Scott Michaels and has now just passed him and in behind the 48 Marvin Dietz. Winwood Mercedes getting closer and closer, but good move from Cronjes there.
Race Union Marvin Otterbach now. He's been the top and behind him. I think that was one of the core racing Caymans just going a little bit wide, was it? No, it wasn't. My apologies. I just saw the red look. That was one of the Coanda cars that was going wide onto the grass as the leaders had tore past him a lap or a corner or two before. So evenly matched, these GT3 cars around here. Schnitzelarm Racing, Michael Brautskamp in that highlighter green yellow. It's also almost a Manti Grello colour, that, ahead of Race Union Marvin Otterbach. Marvin looking to the left hand side, 7th and 8th position, and the LED panels on the windscreen at the top right do show the positions, the relative positions in class of the cars. Mitchell de Jong still leading for VRS Coanda Sim Sport in Porsche 911 Cup by about 10 seconds now from Manti Racing's Tommy Odsgaard, then Jeremy Buteloup for VRS Coanda, then Asher Racing's Robert Klotz and Simon Grossman for Sim RC Cup 2. That's the 911 Cup class. The 714's Manuel Weibel in the Team RSO 397. Now, has he not stopped yet in the 397, but he's ahead of Andre Rashovic for Heusingveld. 10th between those two, 397 from 301. Samuel Lieber in third for Core, and the teammates Baptiste Boudelier for Core in fourth position. And the TCR battle was raging on the last time I looked. I'll just have a quick look again. Thomas Gibson for Core leading by 3/10 of a second from Team Heusingveld and Sim RC TCR.
Right, the vagary in that class is Manuel Weibel in second place overall, John, in the TCR class. Sorry, the Porsche Cayman class. 397, yeah, that is the Porsche Cayman class. Because that has come to the pits, but not for a pit stop, but for presumably a penalty. So Baptiste Boudelier should be up into second place in class, but it's Team Heusingveld leading the way, Andrei Rajkovic. That's the car that was given a bit of a wrap up the rear by the Volkenhorst number 34 BMW, and that cost a little bit of momentum to Scott Michaels, and maybe that was part of the reason that Christian Cronjes hunted him down and has now moved past the battle towards the front of the field.
Fabulous scrap still going on for 7th and 8th as they head up the hill towards the the Caracciola carousel. Remember, aim it at the end of the right-hand end of the advertising hoarding, and then it's a question of just waiting on that very, very rocky run round the concrete. Now heading through Hohe Acht and up towards the highest part of the circuit. Lovely run through the countryside at this part of the track, and this is where, as Bruce was saying earlier on, the local knowledge counts. This is where you have to know which of the curbs you can hammer, and the Audi across the curbs in a much more aggressive fashion than the ENG that it's following at the moment. So Marvin Otterbach then having a look as they come down into Brünchen, ride the block paving on the outside, and then heading up through Ice Curve over the top of the brow. You can't see where the road is going, but it hasn't moved since the last time you were there. Little over the top of the brow, just get airborne for a second, and then the fourth gear right-hander. It's such a committed right-hander after that little jump. Now down into Flansgarden, flat. All through there is flat, even though it's uphill and down-dale. Meantime, at the front of the field, will it be a pit stop this time for Alex Arana, Bruce? He's getting close to it, I would have thought. I think this is the end of his sixth lap.
If not, he could be having one of those moments where you have a lot of explaining to do to the team boss, that you've stayed out past the moment in which you're coming in. Yes, he's coming, he had to. So 9 laps on the board, and in he comes. And
so that was a 7-lap stint for Alex, exactly as we would have expected, with just 2 laps by his teammates. I wonder how much repair time they will put to that. I mean, he's been putting in some cracking times despite the damage to that car. Canapino just with 2 laps at the beginning of the race for that Audi, and I presume it will be Augusta who gets back in for a stint, and then Alex will finish the race off.
Yeah, that has to be that was the original plan. Of course, it all got shunted forward, but now what we have is BS competition. Second place going into the opening corner, having started down in third on the grid. Philip Eng did the first session, but Alexander Voss putting in a good, solid run here, now leading the race from... In fact, I think we've had another place change between the Walkenhorst Motorsport BMWs. It seems that Scott Michaels is back ahead of Christian Cronjes. Marvin Dietz trying to catch them. He is, bit by bit, closing in fourth place in the number 48, the HTP Winwood Mercedes. So that is far from finished yet. Could get onto the virtual podium. Car that has led the race, but don't forget that took a much longer pit stop. That's something I'm going to repeat several times, because the HTP Motorsport car lost about 20-something seconds in the pits, but with a reason. It's also losing time in the pits is the Mahler Racing Team Audi, looking for repairs for that rear wing before Agustin Canapino goes out to see where he can take the car.
Peter Kate listening in today, who has a decent amount of experience and has been a class winner in the Nurburgring 24 hours as well. He says, when we get back to real racing, TV's crews are going to struggle to match the coverage that we're getting this weekend. Hello, Peter. Peter brave enough to be a teammate of mine once in a 24-hour race as well, or maybe brave enough to allow me to drive the car. Actually, we didn't do badly, we did finish second in that one. Peter, nice to know that you are listening in and watching today. Nordschleife are looking fantastic. You're not wrong. The infinite number of cameras that we have around the Nordschleife produces really good product, and you'll be pleased to know that just coming up to halfway through the race, I'm having a cup of Tregothan tea to get me through to the end. I've got a one pot strategy this morning from Tregothan, and as we always say, never underestimate the recuperative effect of a good cuppa. I'm on the Great British blend this morning.
Well, if I start flagging towards the end, John, I don't have any.
Oh, we can put that right. I'm sure people will put that right for you, and the good people at Tregothnan. It's literally just arrived in my travel destinations 24 Hours of Le Mans mug. Thank you to the responsible adult for that. Spot on half distance. Now that's turned up. By the time we get to exactly an hour and a half in, it'll be just warm enough for me to drink. Second place for Scott Michaels then in the BMW Z4. Looks an absolute picture in those Falkenhurst two-tone colours. Rattling down Callan Hart, chased by his teammate Christian Cronjes for the second, the darker of the two Falkenhurst cars. 34 and 35 then. Second and third. Go ahead, Bruce.
Sorry, John, I was just going to say, of course, we saw Christian Cronjes go past Scott Michaels, got close, went on past him. Then he had a much slower lap, and that's why he's back behind Scott. There's 8 seconds between them. Best part now, to the advantage of Michaels over Christian Cronjes. So something untoward occurred for Christian, a moment that perhaps we didn't see. Hey, that happens on the Nurburgring Nordschleife. But all of that is good news because Marvin Dienst is catching up. But actually, I think, looking at lap times, the person who's impressing here is Scott Michaels. He's picked up the pace. He's all but matching the pace the race leader Alexander Voss in the BS competition BMW Z4. And another thing I noticed, we talked about damage to the cars through the course of the race. I wanted to see if the Mahler Racing Team Audi had the rear wing rectified. No, back into the race, it's still damaged, and it's still Alex Arana. So presumably Agustin Canapino will do the final session of this 3-hour race. But I wanted to see if that rear wing suddenly was remoulded and in the correct shape, the shape at which it went out to play for Mahler Racing Team. But it isn't. It's still looking a little bit bent down the driver's right-hand side or left-hand side at the rear of the car.
It didn't seem to be slowing them down, in fairness.
No, banged into 7-minute 55-second laps, so must be a trick of the light.
Well, I think possibly not too bad damage as far as the aerodynamics is concerned. Maybe it rolled a bit of aero off on that side, and it was the right side for how many right or left corners there is. You're very lucky if losing any kind of aerodynamics or damage doesn't significantly affect the pace that you can put together in this form of racing. Drivers will tell you if you get a bit of a hit on the front end, you might well be driving where straight ahead isn't straight ahead on your steering wheel, if you see what I mean, to simulate bent steering arms or deranged rack through Fladskarden for Scott Michaels.
He's only 2 seconds down, just under 2 seconds down. So he's Michaels trying to catch up again with Voss, both pushing very hard. The BMW at the front of the field, ahead of the BMW second in the field. The difference is it's BS competition ahead of Walkenhorst Motorsport. Walkenhorst Motorsport, it's 34 is second, it's 35 car, 10 seconds further back in third place in the hands of Christian Cronjes, who can't live with the pace of Michaels and Voss. But I sense Voss is the one being hunted.
Bruce Jones and John Hindhaugh, hello, wherever you are in the world. This is the third round of the Digital NLS powered by VCO, virtual competition organisation. Good to have your company around the world. It's been a busy couple of days for us in the virtual world, with Bruno Spengler going 2 for 2 in the IMSA series, backing up his win in March at Sebring in that 90-minute competition for all GT Le Mans cars. 50 drivers involved again this week. We were at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Nice to have John Doonan, the president of IMSA, online with us as well, announcing the venues and sponsors for the next race. A couple of weeks' time, we're at Mid-Ohio, and we'll back that up on the Thursday evening European time into the early hours of the morning. But so it's not too bad. You don't have to get up so early when you're WFH working from home. And we'll back that up with another round of this, the DNLS powered by VCO. Third and fourth position, two of the super teams this weekend. Veras Coanda, Sage Karam, who was the top Porsche at Sebring a couple of weeks ago, wasn't taking part in the IMSA run. Got a very good a very good iRacing road rating. He's right up there, over 5,000, which is pretty good to get.
Alles begann mit 2 Freunden und einer Vision. Unsere Initialen stehen für Qualität und Fortschritt. Wir schaffen den Technologietransfer von der Rennstrecke auf die Straße. Wir fertigen Gewindefahrwerke, Sportfedersätze, Stabilisatoren, Distanzscheiben und Gewindefedern. Zu 100% in Deutschland. Wir arbeiten mit Herzblut und Hingabe für diesen einen Moment. Wir sind Motorsport. Wir sind H&R.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
So great battles going on throughout the whole of the field. We find ourselves seeing that rather a lot. 4th, 5th and 6th position, with Audi, BMW battling together as the Marvin Otterbach with the race union. ENG heads that little trio of cars as they're coming up to the Adenauer Forst part of the circuit. It took me, I struggled a little bit last week, if I'm honest, Bruce, to be able to identify some parts of the circuit, because I was seeing views of it that I'd never seen before from real world cameras. But I've got to say that, particularly from the onboards, it's super easy to pick out where we are on the track, and that again is a testament to just how much detail there is, not just in terms of the track surface, Bruce, but also the surroundings, which play such a big part for what we do. Possibly not for the drivers. They're looking for their braking and their turning points, which tend to be much closer to the track. But what you see in the distance is so important for us as commentators to be able to pick out where we are on the track, as long as this one.
Yeah, and I think it's particularly important when you just named as one corner and suddenly you see a feature and think that hill shouldn't be there, then you have to back pedal. One person who'd know, I'm just scrolling down the timing sheets, and I noticed Team Nurburgring in the TCR class have got someone, you know how a lot of German drivers like to race with a pseudonym?
Oh yeah.
Lord Schleifer, Lord of the Ring.
Lord of the Ring.
He's out there competing in 4:14.
Very good.
He's not winning though, so maybe not that much of the Lord of the Ring. I think he's running 8th in class, but
Nice.
there he is.
His real name's Gandalf. So heading then up from Bergwerk, this trio battling for 4th position just off the podium at the moment. Ahead of them, Michael Brauntigam for Schnitzeldam Racing, Valkenhorst Motorsports Christian Cronjes, and Alexander Voss leads for BS Competition. But we're into this area now where the pit stop and strategy shuffle is on. So who's the leading car that's made 2 stops? Answer Alex Arana for Marla Racing Team. But don't forget, they had a very early stop when Agustin Cadapino, who was on pole position, and that car certainly got pace, took damage and stopped after just 2 laps. So BMW, Niels Koch sitting in behind that bright coloured number 11 through the carousel. Beautiful day, temperatures have barely changed. Track temperature's gone up a bit actually, 36.7 Celsius, just under 25 degrees in the virtual Eiffel at the moment. A little bit blowier than the last race we had here in terms of wind. And now this is starting to get very interesting indeed. So much of this circuit though, Bruce Jones, is a one groove track. There's not a lot of places you can go side by side when you're out in the country.
Not a lot of places you can pass, but an awful lot of places where you can make a little error that potentially can become a large error. But Niels Koch pushing Michael Brautigan very hard indeed. They're fighting over 3rd and 4th positions. They will be owing us a pit stop, but if they run a traditional tactic, not for some while. But already we've had the likes of Alex Arana out of kilter, Scott Michaels in the Walkenhorst 34 BMW out of kilter as well. And also 122 Adrenaline Motorsport, their Mercedes has made the 2nd pit stop as well, so they're out of kilter. But right now, Michael Brautigan in the bright yellow Schnitzellaun Racing Mercedes having to work very, very hard indeed, being pushed super hard. But you're quite right, John. Very few places round the back. Easier to make a mistake than to make a move, but it's about looking for gaggles of slower cars up ahead. They could be your friend, but otherwise it's mainly about getting it right out of Galgenkopf and getting the tow past Dottinger, past the petrol station on the outside of the track, up towards Tiergarten to see if you can get a tow. That is the place of the cheapest pass on the circuit.
Well, I just wonder if we can have a quick word with Raffaele Marciello, who is at the moment in the waiting room. See if I can I move him into the broadcast room? I can. So with any luck, Raffaele Marciello should be able to hear us. Hi Raffaele, if you can hear us, as we've got the BMW coming into the pits. It's John Hindhaugh here in the booth. How are you doing today?
I'm okay, you?
Very well, thank you, very well. How was the early part of the race for you and the guys?
Yeah, strange. It's different compared to the real car, but it's fun. We have nothing to do those days, so we have to try to keep busy and try to do what we like.
What's the strategy then? We've seen a couple of different takes on it here. What strategy are you going to be running to the end of the race, Raffaele?
Yeah, we try, but actually we have to stop one more time. So we will do one full stint and then one short stint until the end. So we will see where we are, but I mean, I don't know. I just attend this. It's for fun. Of course, I want a good result, but all the sim guys are quite fast. So it's not easy to come here and be quick as them.
Well, I wish you the best for the rest of the race, mate. We're really enjoying it. Thanks very much for joining us, Raffaele.
Thank you, Tom.
Cheers, mate. No, that was a little bit difficult to hear over the top of the cars going by, but it's just like doing a real pit interview, isn't it? I need to put the mic closer next time, Bruce.
No. Well, exactly, because Raffaele is one of the most press-on drivers in GT3 racing anywhere in the world. But if you put a microphone in front of him, his natural reaction, a bit like a Kimi Räikkönen, is to go into reverse and pull away. He's quietly spoken. He's very funny, but really he does his talking in the car. Good to have him on board. In fact, when we were racing in the metal. He won the penultimate round of last year, the Barbarossa Prize event with Maxi Buch for Team HDP Motorsport. This weekend, a novice in the DNLS, the Digital Nurburgring Langstrecken Series, but his teammates Fabian Schiller and Philipp Müller are not at all inexperienced in this class of racing, this style of racing. They competed last time, and I'm sure Raffaele will have learnt a good deal competing for the team this time around, and will spend time between now and the next race, the 2nd of May, which is the 4th round, getting some more experience in, because all these drivers, John, we know they're not going to come to this undercooked if they possibly can. If they can find an advantage, they'll go looking for it.
Now, I say ooh because there's a change in the 718 class, the Cup class, and that's because the leader has stopped. So that's very interesting indeed. That means an extra lap for the core Sim Racing 2 team, the 303 of Samuel Liebert. So who's just stopped there? That was Lennart Hartenberg for Team Heusingveld, who came in from the lead there. And I find that very interesting that somebody's deciding to try an extra lap. I'll just scroll down my strategy screen, one of 111 that I've got here, and see how many laps they're doing and what sort of strategy we think they're doing. So Heusingveld has only done, I reckon, 3 laps. So once again, Bruce, what we're seeing even in the support classes, if you will, or the other classes, should I say, we're seeing this short stint being done to even up the amount of race time that drivers get. I wouldn't have thought, and we said this 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have necessarily thought that that was the right way to go about it, but that's exactly what the winners did last time around, the Williams Esports BMW drivers.
Yeah, the Williams Esport drivers, Sami Matti-Trogen and Dominic Steib, the good thing for them was the fact that they had the race under control from the outset. They were literally the only car on the track that had the space around them and no rivals right on their tails to start calling the tactics as they wish to do them. But for a lot of the others, it was simply a case of head down and race to the finish. This time, definitely we're seeing people probably having watched back the first race and starting to think, yeah, maybe not that simple division of time. Let's try and cut the apple in a different fashion. And I think it's going to be really, really exciting. We've got what left? Just under 1 minute 20 left in this 3-hour race, and I think we're going to see it all coming together towards the end. So there'll be a few sleepers in the pack, a few people who've run a very different tactic. They won't be towards the top end of the timesheets, but let us see. As I said, an hour and 18 minutes remaining, and not everybody is going about this race in the same way.
Hello to Chris Suku, prepping camera equipment for when this is all over. My colleagues from India, Italy and the UK are getting together for an eye concert after this race, which is going to be coming from India. Robert Mitchell tuned in today, loving the broadcast. At RSL underscore studio, we mouth around that, need some more of the Tregothlan tea. Hashtag DNLS underscore RSL. Well, Bruce, we're into the meat of the race now, and these middle laps we saw a couple of weeks ago, so important to keep yourself in contention now for the run to the flag at the end, whether that is a 4, 5 or 6 lap run to the end. Probably as we stand at the moment, looking at, let me just pull up another window. We're looking at thinking about 9 or 10 laps remaining from this point. There's very few people who'll be able, in fact I don't think anybody could go that distance, so we've still got a pit stop at least for everyone out there. And do you save fuel now, or do you drive flat out? I would suggest the latter.
Absolutely the latter, and the person who's doing that is the person who's now just banged in his 3rd lap in the 7 minute 55 second category. That's Alex Arana, car that started on pole position, the Marder Racing Audi. He got dropped by his teammate who started from pole. That's Agustin Canapino, but Arana, it struck me last time around, he was really upset he didn't win the race, and he was a bit snivelly about it, to be frank. 3rd overall with his teammate But this time around, he is super, super quick. Nobody's matching him for pace. Best of the rest is, in fact, looking down the charts, the driver top of the timesheets at the moment, top of the leaderboard, Niels Koch, 107, Team BMW Bank. BMW, he's the only other driver really matching him for pace. And Kevin Folt is fourth for the Phoenix Racing Audi team.
Out of the running at the sharp end of the field, but Sami Matti-Trogen, the Finnish rallycross driver who revealed to us in the VCO Victory Lane interview a couple of weeks ago that he had been due to actually get a real world test around the Nordschleife in a GT3 car, and that hasn't happened yet. He's never turned a real lap. He's just done a 7:54.8, fastest lap of the race. But of course, he's sitting down in 20th position, 12th in class for Williams Esports in that BMW at the moment after they had issues earlier on.
Yeah, and he's just followed that up with a 7:56. So the driver who was the star of the show 2 weeks ago, Sami Matti-Trogen, the Finn, picking his way forward. But when you fall that far down the timetable in a championship as competitive as this, it's hard to make your way back. His next target is, well, from the Porsche 911 Cup class. It's Sven Groot for Huber Motorsport, and the fact he's lapping, let's do the maths, 25 seconds faster means that shouldn't take too long for the Finn to keep his progress advancing up the table.
Hello to Chris Coughlin, who's just tweeted at RSL_studio, hashtag DNLS_RSL. Love having the team providing commentary for the Digital NLS series and also bringing the awareness of this event to so many more. Long may it continue. We're thoroughly enjoying it. Thanks to VCO for bringing us on board. And finally, Bruce, that battle for fourth is broken up, as which has now become the battle for second, of course, with pit stops, as Michael Bergertram comes in to the pit lane in the Schnitzelam Racing car, and that allows then Otterbach into second place to try and chase down Niels Koch in that Team BMW Bank car.
Yeah, what we have to look to there is the cars that have a number 2 in the number of pit stops they've made. Alex Arana now in third place overall for Marder Racing Team, out of kilter, but he's already done his second pit stop. And look to Lauren Heinrich in 6th at the moment. The BS competition BMW ran second early in the race. That's also got 2 pit stops done. These ones will work their way towards the 4 as we get into the final hour of this race. Niels Koch continues to lead in the 107, the Team BMW Bank BMW Z4. Started by Bruno Spengler, Niels on board, and then Kai Kashuba will take that towards the end of the race, but not managing the pace of the quickest of the rest. In fact, as I say that, she is managing the pace of the best of the best. Niels Koch putting in a very, very good lap, leading the way by a fair few seconds from Marvin Otterbach. About 5 seconds indeed. 1 second between first and second. The Race Union Audi in that second place.
Arenas not necessarily out of this, you know, Bruce. 9 laps to go. He's going to need a very, very short stop at the end. He's done 3 laps on this run. Remember, they came in early after Canapino had the issue. So that car, whether it's Alex or Augustin who takes it to the end, at the moment, with a predicted 9 laps to go, I reckon that they are going to be a couple of laps only short of going to the end. And I wonder what strategy they take on this. It's so hard to save fuel around here in a meaningful way. Yes, you can save fuel, but you've got to save a full lap. And saving a full lap here is super, super hard. I just wonder with the 2 cars ahead of him having to stop as well. In fact, I think everybody in the top 10 has still got to stop. With 9 laps left, there's nobody can go to the end. So it's all going to be about how short your last stop is and how fast you can drive on used tyres at the end of the race, isn't it?
Okay, here's the thing. Alex Arana, 26 seconds precisely down on race leader Niels Koch, but lapping a second a lap faster. 9 laps you're talking about, he's 26 seconds down. Math's not good, but other variable there, Niels Koch won't be going towards the end of the race in the 107.
Well,
Kai Kashuba, but I just wonder what the pace of Agustin Canapino will be. He did those 2 laps in a damaged car. He crashed out of the lead, but he was the fastest in qualifying. He did get pole position. It's the relative pace between Canapino and the driver taking over the car that's leading, the 107 BMW.
Bruno
Kei Kashuba.
Spengler started that car, and Kei Kashuba will take it on. But I think they've got this wrong. I think the 107 team's got this wrong, because Niels Koch should be coming in at the end of this lap. That will give him his 7-lap stint, and then Kai will get in at the end of this. But I reckon there's still going to be 8 laps to go, and they can't. I don't think they can do 8 laps. So I think they're going to have a splash as well. And that's what I'm talking about. Why Arenas in that Marla Racing and the Marla Racing car with Canapino, I don't think they're out of it. Taking the early pit stop for damage, as we saw earlier on at the end of effectively the end of lap 3, as it was, end of lap 2, beginning of lap 3, depending on where their pit is on the pit lane. With still 9 laps to go at the end of this one, Bruce, they're back in. They've got to stop again, but so does everybody else. And I reckon they're only going to need a couple of laps of fuel. It's going to be very interesting. It'll all be about getting the fuel fill right, 2.95 litres per second or thereabouts, to make sure that you can get the final 15.5-mile lap of the track.
Yeah, I think the fact that we've got the car that started 13th leading the race, car that started 11th in second place, goes to show they've run a different tactic. Yes, there were sort-outs around the opening lap and a few drivers gained places, 3 or 4 places, but I think they're fairly artificial positions. I think it's looking very, very good for Alex Arana. But again, and maybe in subsequent rounds, the difference between the various drivers in each of the car will be smaller as they've got more practice under their belts in iRacing. But I think it's really down to the pace of their teammates that's going to dictate this. If you've got anybody who's a weak link in the chain in those top cars, no disrespect to Kai Kashuba, I have no idea how handy he is on board. But Niels Koch, he's certainly doing a fantastic job doing his bid in the 107 BMW for the Team BMW Bank team. And he just did a 7 minutes 56, very good lap, another 7 minutes 55 from you-know-who, Alex Arana. That's about 4 of those he's done. But that just shows how close it is, just under 8 minutes each between these drivers at the top of the field. So if you're dealing in a second, it's not a giant thing. No. Find 25 seconds over Arana, that is a giant thing.
I just wonder what the tactics are going to be. At the moment, still predicting that 9 laps to go at the end of this 22-lap race is what we're predicting, but it'll all come to when the leader goes across the line, of course, and what happens at that point. And if that's one of the things that makes you have to be a little bit conservative here, particularly if you're at the sharp end of the field, because you will have to make sure that you've got enough fuel in the tank to do that extra lap, should it be required.
Yeah, and I think another factor I'm really trying to keep my eye on lap times is any damage these cars are carrying. Yes. How much is it going to be slowing them? And it does seem to almost be a geometric progression. It hurts you more and more as the race runs to its conclusion. That's certainly what I concluded at the end of the race 2 weeks ago when hearing from the drivers afterwards in the post-race interviews. And I just want to throw another little name back into the pot as someone who's going really well these late stages of the race. Lauren Heinrich, we saw a couple of weeks ago, was very, very handy indeed. Driving the BS competition, BMW that was second on the opening lap, has led the race in that wonderful battle between Philipp Eng, the BMW, and Philip Ellis in the HTTP Winwood Motorsport Mercedes. But Heinrich is going really well indeed. He's trying to hunt down Arana, not managing it on pace at the moment, but running different tactics, as we've said.
Still needs another stop to get to the end, though. That's going to, again, be a 2 or 3 lap dash at the end for that BS Motorsport car, depending on where they are comparatively to when the leader starts the final lap. This is going to be a really interesting run. It was a bit more cut and dried a couple of weeks ago, but there's been so much incident that people have had to modify their strategy. They do say, don't they, in warfare, that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. Here, no race strategy survives contact on the first lap. everything had to change around. Into the pits comes the leader with the number 1 in the top right-hand corner of the windscreen. Niels Koch comes in the BMW bank-sponsored number 107 from, as I say, the top position, that dark grey machine. And they are not going to be able to go to the end from here. They are not going to be able to go to the end for here with 8 laps to go predicted at the moment. Unless something happens and the pace slows down, it's still great weather. It won't rain, it can't rain. The temperature isn't dropping at the moment. Air temp still 25 degrees Celsius, track temperature well up above, well, it's nearly 37 degrees Celsius now. I just wonder what that's doing to the tyre wear, whether that's making things worse for tyre wear as well. And what we might see, Bruce, is people who are trying to do a stint and a half or a stint and a third on tyres here, which was relatively easy 2 weeks ago when the track temp was down in the mid-20s, but in the mid-30s. Are you still going to have the tyre performance at the end of 10, 11, 12 laps that you had 2 weeks ago? I would suggest not.
I mean, it's one of the many, many variables, John, that make it just so exciting. So many things to look at, so many things to consider, but certainly about 10 degrees more on tyre temperature. Vice versa. Going to be really, really intriguing. And I think just going down and coming back up again, maybe just going in one direction and not the direction they're really hoping for. But again, looking at the lap times, Alex Arana now leading the race again, has just put in yet another lap in 7 minutes 55. He's metronomic at the front of the field. And Lauren Heinrich now into second place, Scott Michaels into third. So it's Mahler Racing Team.
Fastest lap last time around for that car for Scott Michaels, so that car's still got pace to Falcon Horse 34. Fastest lap for them, a 56.2. Yes, that's their personal best, if you will. Let's check back in with TCR. We haven't mentioned the other classes for a wee while, and the TCRs then at the moment led by Sven Gladzel for Team Huizingveld in the 404, and he's got the SimRC TCR Felix Luthering right up his tailpipes there as they're going down over the bridge and heading to that bridge now. Great sight, these RS3 TCRs. Audi backing away from TCR Racing, of course, as even before the virus crisis, VAG decided to, I suppose you'd say, stop splitting the marketplace and bring all of their racing into certain brands. Audi have said, though, in the real world that they will continue to support anyone who has an RS3 TCR, but that their race car of choice, the TCR race car of choice for customer racing, isn't going to be the TCR going forward, so there won't be any development of that car. This is the battle for the first place. The Audi, of course, notable in TCR globally as, I was going to say, the only four-door. That's not quite right, because the Hyundai Veloster is a four-door. It's just not a traditional view of a four-door. It has a hatchback, one-door long version on the driver's side and two doors slightly shorter on the passenger side, so it gets in with four doors. It looks like a three-door, which wouldn't be allowed if you were looking at it from the driver's side. Yeah, the Audi then, the only one with a boot rather than a hatchback, shall we say. I'm told that there is some aerodynamic advantage for that, and Mazda, certainly with their new Mazda 3 that they are developing for TCR, look very carefully at the Audi as they were putting together their concepts for the new Mazda 3 TCR, which we were due to see next year, but who knows, with car production only just restarting in some places. I did see that VW will be starting things up again in the next week or 10 days, but clearly auto manufacturers around the world not going to have the money to develop their street car range, never mind support motorsport. It will be a very different landscape, but at least one or two are beginning to think and plan ahead for when that happens. Through Brunchen then for this battle at the lead of TCR. A very distinctive yellow and black colour scheme for the Audi in second place. The Sim RC TCR team at 476. Cannot imagine the amount of concentration that must be going on there, because both of these drivers absolutely on the ragged edge of adhesion. Front wheels getting up off the ground and getting there for both of them as they come into Flansgarden. Now that over the brow right hand. Oh!
Sorry, John. For Sven Glatzel and Felix Luding, first and second in the TCR class. The thing about it is they haven't been interrupted by any other traffic, and now, as I say that,
Christopher Mark. I think it's 322. Max Friedhoff actually is taking that car over, but it is the 322. Now that was one of the Cup 4 cars.
Took the tail of the pack. It was 11th position in class. So I suddenly thought that was the TCR battle having been split up. But the fact is, for Sven Glatzel and Felix Luding, no one had been around them. They were able to concentrate in their own battle.
Oh!
So that's what you don't want to.
Absolutely nailed by.
No fault.
Yeah, nailed by one of the SP9 cars. That was one of the. Was that one of the Walkenhorst cars?
I think it's one of the Walkenhorst cars. And for Max Friedhoff, I'm afraid he was given a thump up the rear. Maybe he was where the car didn't want him to be, but certainly that was less than polite, I think we could say. So they had prevented into the barriers with the rear end.
Maybe that wasn't the Walkenhorst cars. Well, if it was Scott Michaels, because Christian Cronjes in the Total car has got Jack Sedgwick for HTP following him, and that definitely wasn't those two that happened. Just checking.
I'm looking at split times. I can't see where Michaels. I don't know. I have to see at the end of the lap. Scott Michaels still running in third place according to the timing screens. 4 seconds down on Lauren Heinrich, who's doing his best to close in on Alex Arana. Arana leading in the Mahler Racing Team Audi. BS competition with Lauren Heinrich in second and Walkenhorst Scott Michaels in third. So who was it that hit the back of the Porsche cable and spun it round?
Dave Stevens reminds me the Honda Civic Type R TCR is a 4-door also. I always forget that because it doesn't look like a booted car. It does look like a hatchback. So apologies for that. Thank you, Dave, for letting us know. At RSL_studio, hashtag DNLS_RSL. Right, 4th and 5th. Jack Sedgwick in the black HTP Winwood AMG. Trying to get the draft, the aerodynamic advantage from the BMW, breaking the air, just beginning to come in. A little bit of damage on the front of that HTP, but we've seen it superbly geared, that 48 car, right on the rev limiter at VMAX as they come down towards the Bilstein Bridge, the little left-hand kink before the Tiergarten. Side by side through there is very brave from both of them. I don't think the Merc's got it done, hasn't got it done. Was there a little touch there between them? Maybe, but it didn't seem to unsettle the BMW. Fabulous driving, absolutely maxed out in speed. 260, 270 kilometres an hour and possibly more than that. And the tiniest movement on the steering wheel to get through that left-hand kink. And they both managed to get through it and start another lap. I was going to say unscathed. There is a bit of damage on the front of the HTP Winwood car, just the panel gap not looking as it left the virtual factory in Alton Deans. Alex Aranas again, Bruce, you've mentioned him at the front of the field, but if you look at his last laps, his best is a 55.2, and he's peppering the mid to late 55s lap after lap. Consistency and pace is the absolute, I mean that is consistency, pace and no mistakes, the holy trinity of motor racing.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think I've seen him do at least 5 laps in 7 minutes 55. It's metronomic, and bear in mind, on all of those laps he would have come across some slower cars he had to get past. So and that again is in a car with a damaged rear wing, so he really is the star of the show. Can he hang on? He's 13.5 seconds clear Lauren Heinrich in the BS competition BMW, and then in third place Scott Michaels. Wolkenhorst hold down third and fourth position, Scott Michaels and Christian Cronjes, but 5 seconds down is Michaels to Lauren Heinrich. But Alex Arana, we know they're running a different tactics. Their hand was forced when his teammate Agustin Canapino came in after. Was it the end of the second lap, John? I believe it was.
Yes, it was. Beginning of the third, because they're far enough down the pit lane for that to happen. Just keeping my eyes on this battle for second place now. Sage Karam for VRS Coanda has got the Team RSO car right in behind. Then Baptiste Boudelier for Core a little bit further back. The opportunity to check some action that's just happened. Baptiste Boudelier was in that battle a few moments ago. Oh, went off going down to Brunchen and very nearly picked up one of the competitor cars. I think that was the 301 Leonard Hartenberg in the Heusingfeld number 301, and just got a little bit out of shape. Coming up to Brunchen, there's that, you come over the brow with that right-hander and it unsettles the car, and you really don't want to let the car drift too much because you've got to drag it back to the left-hand side, and it makes it not just feel all wrong and all a bit more difficult. And the back end just got light there and caught him out. Meantime, the wonky wing tells us that Alex Arana and Marla Racing is on the Hatzenbach, Bruce.
He is, and he is being hunted down by Lauren Heinrich, but unfortunately for Lauren, it's a tenth of a second or two per lap, and the deficit is 13 and a bit seconds. But we've got a different set of tactics from the race-leading Marla Racing Audi to the BS The BS competition, BMW's run a fairly straightforward race. It's done its pit stops at regular intervals. It's running in second place overall, 5 and a bit seconds to good over Scott Michaels, also in a BMW. But I don't think they've got the answers to Alex Arana. But again, how much will the damage of that car slow its pace later in the race? But so far it hasn't slowed it at all. 7 minutes 55, 7 minutes 55. That's the run of lap times from Alex Arana. I would like to think, if we speak to him after the race, that he will be a little happier than last time, because he's certainly played his role in this as be consistent and consistently quick. Phenomenal drive.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Agustin Canapino will be disappointed that his first stint ended with issues, and he has done the short stint. Now, that lead car, Alex did the previous 7-lap stint. We're now on lap 14, so he's done 4 laps in this stint. The question is, when does he stop? We are getting into the stage now, Bruce, with 53 minutes left on the clock, but you've got to add really 8 minutes to that, so just in case you cross the line with 30 seconds to go and you're in a battle. So at the moment we've really still potentially got about an hour to go, and that's just a tad far for these cars to go on a tank of fuel, so we're not quite yet in a safe window to make your last pit stop, fuel it all the way to the brim and send it to the end. And the computer strategy, and we've made this available to you, radiolemans.com, and if you click the link on the front page, you'll see our timing. It'll take you through to the page with the live sound and vision and the timing. 7 laps to go. That's 56 minutes as it stands where the leader is on the track at the moment. Now that will change when he comes in for his last pit stop, so we're getting close. I think one more lap to be safe for the leader, and then he's in the window for the final stop. The question for me, Bruce, is do they put Canapino back in again? I suppose they will do. There's no doubt about Canapino's pace. We saw that in practice and qualifying.
The pace was but he got it right at the sharp end. As we said, you effectively had one flying lap in qualifying. He made his count. He was better than the rest. But of course, there are many other elements, and I still haven't really got to the foot of what went wrong when he went round on the opening lap. Was he pushed because he had Philippe Eng close in behind in the BS competition BMW, or did he simply get it wrong? And if he just simply got it wrong, that'll be weighing down on him. But the fact of the matter is, as hard as Heinrich pushes in the BS competition, BMW, it was 13 point something seconds down. It's now 12.5 seconds down, so it's closing in, but the clock is closing down. 51 minutes precisely remaining in this race. It's just about getting out and getting his focus. Then we've got respective time of those pit stops, but effectively they should be similar because they're putting in very similar amount of time, amount of fuel to get the cars to finish in the race. But I think the advantage is enough at the moment for the Mahler Racing team, simply down to the fact that Alex Arana has done lap after lap at super competitive pace. He has eked out seconds here and there, and they're all starting to really add up, John.
Mahler Racing team, Audi leads the BS competition in second position. BS competition car with a bit of a gap as well. So 11 and a half seconds. They've got a gap of 5.5 back to the first of the Valkenhorst BMWs. The Lauren Heinrich in that BS car, the 189 BMW, backing up Alexander Voss. As far as I'm aware, it's spelt differently from Vonson Voss, by the way. Somebody asked that earlier on.
Oh yes, no, it's with the Schlafers S. It's the
Correct.
Germanic way, not with double SE. 9.7 seconds is the gap now. I was just about to say that Alex Arana, just checking to come into the pits.
Negative.
Negative, so he's gone and passed. The gap has come down by 4 seconds in the space of the last couple of minutes.
And that's
So
because
I
of
think
7:58 from Alex. That's by far. That could have just been traffic, of course.
it could be traffic
seconds,
or, yeah.
it's nothing.
7 minutes 54.885 seconds last time around for Lauren Heinrich. He is definitely doing his bit. That's the fastest lap for that car in second place. One of the very fast laps of the race. Just going to scroll down to see where the Williams Esports entry has risen to in the hands of Sami Matti-Trogan. Up to 16th place, still got 2 Porsche 911 Cup cars to pass. That's Josh Rogers in second place, who led from pole in the class, and Tommy Erskard, who's leading that class for Manthey Racing. How good are his lap times? 7 minutes 56. So the fastest driver out there is the driver of the BS competition.
And what are they? Let me just check. What are they off the lead at the moment? He's coming round to complete the lap, so he's a couple of minutes off the lead. But again, if I
the Williams Esport car.
Yeah, Williams Esport car, Sami Matti. So one of the reasons that they're so far down is that Eduardo Mortara did 2 pit stops in the first 2 laps. Then he did a full 7-lap stint. Sami Matti got in lap 9 and is now coming to has finished lap 15. So that's 6 laps. He's got 1 more lap and then he can pit and go to the end. But I think the leader will do the same thing. I've got a feeling the leader will be in. I think Alex will be in at the end of this lap and give it back to Canapino, and then they'll go to the end from there. That's just my thought, just because Augustin had such a short run at the beginning. He could probably do 1 more lap after that if he wanted to, but it tends to be a very egalitarian split between the drivers in this. And to be fair, the time for the fuel drop, although it does make a little bit of a difference, there's no sliding scale of lap times as we would see in the NLS in real life that requires me to get Paul Trustwell to grab his table number 17 and a slide rule to work it out. Hello to Paul Trustwell, by the way. I'm sure if Paul's tuned in today, been making his way as a team strategist this year out in the real world, which is why we haven't had him on the early part of the season's broadcast, which wish him all the best. Hopefully see him at a racetrack sometime soon. Alright, we're coming down into the business end of things with just over 46 minutes remaining. Here's how it stands. Arena leads for Mahler Racing Team Heinrich and Michaels, BS Competition and Valkenhorst battling it out for second, third, with Christian Kronius in fourth position in the second of the Valkenhorst cars. 186 from 189. Then the 34 and the 35. Then Jack Sedgwick just a second further back from Christian Kronius in the HTP Winward EMG GT3. And the top six made up with Philip Nola for Vodafone Team Get Speed. That's the bright red AMG GT3. Still pit stops to come at the end of the race. We're live in sound and vision, round 3 from the Nurburgring.
Alles begann mit 2 Freunden und einer Vision. Unsere Initialen stehen für Qualität und Fortschritt. Wir schaffen den Technologietransfer von der Rennstrecke auf die Straße. Wir fertigen Gewindefahrwerke, Sportfedersätze, Stabilisatoren, Distanzscheiben und Gewindefedern. Zu 100% in Deutschland. Wir arbeiten mit Herzblut und Hingabe für diesen einen Moment. Wir sind Motorsport. Wir sind H&R.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
Welcome back to those of you watching on the streaming video. No interruption to the audio for our radio listeners on RS1. We're just discussing, Bruce Jones and myself, John Hindhoff, just discussing why we're watching the battle between BMW and Audi out on the circuit, where we think people are pit stop wise, and it's very interesting to look at the moment. As Marvin Otterbach is right up the tailpipes of Kai Kashuba. Now, the reason that grey car is important right now is, according to our strategy software, we believe that BMW bank car that had all the problems early on and the 2 early pit stops, but we think that car might be able to go to the end. If the pace stays the same, it's going to be pretty close, but I think that car might be able to go at the end, whereas everybody ahead of it, and of course some behind, will need a pit stop.
Well, what we know for sure, John,
and there's Arana in and Scott Michaels in. So the leader is in.
But what we know for sure, talking about Kai Kashuba in 7th place, is the car right behind the Race Union Audi, Marvin Otterbach at the wheel, can do exactly the same because they came in at the same time.
Good point.
Just bear that in mind.
Yeah, the Spengler was the first driver in the team BMW. Sorry, they didn't do the 2 early stops. They just had a bad opening stint because Bruno Spengler had a couple of incidents, didn't he? And his average over that first run was an 8:01. Niels Koch had some problems as well, 8:12 his average. So Kai Kasuba to bring that car home, and you're absolutely right in the fact that Florian Baudin did 7 laps, Marvin Otterbach did 7 laps, and Otterbach has stayed in, for want of a better word, the Race Union SP9 entry. So they're looking at 21 laps for this race, 3 7-lap stints. Now, how close are we going to be to that? Answer, very close indeed. It will depend when the leader, where the leader is when time expires. It's as simple as that, Bruce. Otherwise, they're going to have to pit with a lap to go.
What do you do if you're now leading the race? If you're now Lauren Heinrich, BS
Right.
Competition BMW, all you can do is bang in the fastest lap you possibly can. He's just done another 7-minute 54-second lap. He is pushing that 189 BMW really, really hard. Best part of 24 seconds clear of Christian Cronjes in one of the 2 Walkenhorst Motorsport BMWs, but galloping away at the front of the field, doing all he possibly can. So Lauren Heinrich is doing his bit, but running a totally different tactic to obviously the car that Agustin Canapino has taken over from Arana, the Mana Racing team. Audi down into 8th place overall. The comeback starts now.
12 laps by his 2 teammates, split between them. Philip Eng started that BS competition car, the number 189. Then Alexander Voss, both 6 laps. Heinrich now on his, 5th lap. So he's probably got 1 more, maybe 2 more in terms of before he has to stop. But with 5 laps showing on the predicted, any time he could stop now. It just depends what the traffic's like. And there will be, by the way, if you think this is that people stopping slightly off kilter or going 1 lap more, 6 or 7, is just done by the roll of a dice, you'd be absolutely wrong. He will have his teammates watching the predictions of where he's going to drop back in to traffic. So if it looks like he's going to catch a whole gaggle of traffic, now albeit only 50 cars rather than 150 round here, it's not quite as busy, but they may well make that decision because they are in the window now. The window is open for your last stop to go to the end. I suggest, Bruce, what might be the deciding factor here for some of these teams and drivers who are in the window with a couple or maybe 3 laps left of fuel is how the tyres are and whether they think they can stretch the tyres to the end, or whether it's better to come in, take slightly less fuel and then take the extra time to put a new set of boots on it.
Good point, John, and I really think it's how confident the drivers are that they can extract the very, very most of those tyres, because if they find themselves in a gaggles of traffic ahead of them on their outlap when the tyres are fresh and they want to maximise them, it's wasting that time. It's better to do their pit stop differently. But if they feel that there's going to be a clearish sector of track and their driver can get out and for the first lap and a half really, really pound around and take the very sweetest moments of those tyres, then that's a different way of looking at it. Alex Arana, of course, handed over to Agustin Canapino, who's right under the tail end of Michael Broughtingham in the Schnitzelarm Racing Mercedes. That's the bright yellow one, and that's not where he wants to be. He needs to get past because he's quicker and he's losing time at the moment. So this is maybe swinging some advantage back towards the BS competition. BMW always getting very tight indeed. Canapino's pushing on. He doesn't want a second mistake today, so he's got to have an element of caution, John. But the time is counting down. 37 minutes remaining.
Down into Callan-Hard, and I think he's got it done this time around. Yes, he has, but spent the first third of the lap getting frustrated on this is his outlap as well, of course, so he wouldn't have had all the heat in the tyres. That might have had something. They haven't bothered to do full repairs on the aero, but we've seen that Audi has been super quick for Marla Racing. So he's now 1 minute and 17 seconds away from the leader, 11 seconds away from the next car up the road, which is the Walkenhorst Motorsport of Christian Cronjes, who I reckon still has to stop. Here's what I reckon. If we go from the front of the field, the leader, BS competition, Lauren Heinrich, will have to stop to get to the end. So will Jack Sedgwick. He is a lap worse off on fuel for HTP Winward. The Vodafone Get Speed car, the number 2, Philip Noller, he's probably coming in at the end of this lap. Then the 107 Team the BMW Bank car, on the cusp, that car, along with Marvin Otterbach for the Race Union, 107 and 187. Christian Conyers, he's got the stop. So Arana is actually racing, for my money, is racing the 107 and the 187. That's who he's racing at the moment. That's who he's got to get back to if he's got a chance of winning this race. Because if those two cars go to the end, they're going to be first and second without... Hang on, this is another Trustwell-ism. Everything else being equal, which it seldom is in motor racing. Right, the 299 comes out. Also the 301 in for what will be its last pit stop as well. 301 being the Huizenveld team. That was Leonard Hartenberg's car that he started the race, and Lennart's back in that car for the run to the flag. Drops down to 4th position in the Cayman class, and right ahead of him the 308 comes out the pits, and that car is 4th position. So Joni Takanen, who jumped in, that's the VRS Coanda car. So that is a battle for position as they've made their last pit stops.
What I would say about that, John, is the fact that Lennart Hartenberg led the class when he did the opening stint of the race. So, and that was when the traffic was really, really busy indeed. So he's good in traffic, got himself to the front of the class of Lennart Hartenberg. Let's see if he can continue taking to the finish. Started second in class, so he's always at the sharp end. But as you get this final rumble, this run through the last bunch of pit stops with just under 35 minutes remaining in this 3-hour race, expect Team Huizenveld to work its way forward. So Lennart Hartenberg pushing Jani Takanen very hard indeed, and I do expect him to find his way past and get up onto the class podium.
One or two of the classes outside of GT3. This is the sort of time 2 weeks ago, Bruce, when it all kicked off. We had 3, 4 and 5 cars line astern. We took our eyes off it for a nanosecond, it seemed, to check in with what was going on at the front of the field. We go back and they were all spread out. So this is the time when I think everybody knows that it's the dash to the flag, and there's no point in leaving anything in the fast draw at this point. You pull it all out and you throw it at the track.
Well, I'll tell you who isn't leaving anything in the fast draw, as you say, John, is our race leader, Lauren Heinrich. Just put in a lap of 7 minutes 53.854 seconds, gaining 2.5 seconds on the HTP Winward Mercedes that's doing its best to keep up. So Lauren Heinrich has the advantage over Jack Sedgwick and building himself towards a grand finale in this race. The 189 BMW started by Philipp Eng, then Alexander Voss finished the second stint, and Lauren Heinrich is in the third stint, but he is going to have to pit. Will he run all the way to the finish from there? You'd say, looking at the laps he's doing at the moment, yes, he ought to. And Jack Sedgwick, Philip Noller from second and third places into the pits in their Mercedes.
And that, well, Noller was just a 6 laps dash, and that came off the back of a shorter stint for Raffaele Marciello. We talked about Raffaele earlier on, so it'll be a slightly shorter fill for Philip. The question will be, I think he's got to go tyres. I think you've got to go tyres with still 4 or 5 laps to go as far as that's concerned. Sedgwick was a 7-lap stint, and Heinrich at the lead of the race has completed 6 laps, which is as far as that car's gone. He's on to his 7th lap now, so he will have to pit next time around, but he's probably only going to have to fuel, Bruce, for 3 laps, and he might take the chance of not putting new tyres on with only 3 laps to go, and that's where he will make up a wee bit of time. So that's the calculation that's going on at the moment. Follow along with the strategy and the software at radiolemans.com. Click the link on the front page, that'll take you to where the video is, and we've got live timing under that. Click the little bar graph at the top right hand side, and you've got a whole menu full of options there, including a strategy overview. I am running 7 different tabs of timing at the moment to get through this. So first and
Talking of running,
Go on.
Talking of running, I put a question out ahead of the race. Which British racing driver competing in this race did a half marathon this morning in the BRDC half marathon? Richard Westbrook, and he just got in for the final stint in the number 14 Phoenix Racing entry, and that's in 11th place overall. So if he flags towards the end, it's slightly understandable. But a great double day for him, and running in that Phoenix Racing Audi.
It's Bruce Jones, John Hindhaugh. It's the team. It's the team here as the 718 class has been turned up to gas mark 6 again, with the two Porsche Cayman GT4s absolutely nip and tuck. This has been quality stuff all the way through the race from the second of the Porsche Cup classes, and it's Sasha Berger and Sindre Setsas. Zorg Rensport Esports have found themselves at the front of the field. Core Sim Racing were there this time 2 weeks ago, and Sindre this time, he couldn't make the pass for the lead 2 weeks ago, hassled the leader lap after lap, and then the tyres went away, and this time the Core Racing driver is repelled just for a moment. What I do need to find out is what is the respective strategy for those two cars further down the field, and if I do that now, well, Sindra's just got into the car, so Sindre will go to the end from now. Sasha is already on lap 5 or 6, so Sasha in the blue and white Porsche will have to stop one more time, but Sindre in the core car, which is the white and orange car, going up the left hand side now and takes the lead. Would have taken the lead when the blue and white car stopped anyway, but the car that he is racing is actually probably one car further back, and Sage Karam might be still on the edge of being able to get to the end with that. Certainly the Black Falcon 250 can get to the end. So the Black Falcon 250 is what the 303 is racing at the moment. The 303 Zorg Rensport E racing car will have to stop before the end of the race. So good pass, and Sindre going one better, Sasha Sindre going one better than the result from 2 weeks ago, or two better actually, because didn't they drop back down to third, Bruce, towards the end of the
yes,
the
they
race.
did.
Yeah,
he was passed in the closing laps by Carl Janssen, his teammate. Remember, because
Damage on the
Sindre
car.
said he had a little bit of damage, and it just really hurt them in a straight line.
yes, correct. There's 5 or 10k slower down the long straight, the Dottinger Höhe. And so that's a new leader then, just to confirm, in the GT4 Cayman Cup class. Sindre Setsas, the Core Sim Racing Team 2. So the VRS Quanda Sport, Jani Takinen and Team Huizinveld in the 308. That is a battle for position as well, third and fourth position. And again, just checking those guys for what their positions are. VRS, Sage Karam might be able to make it to the end. I don't think Lennart can. So that is a battle on the track at the moment. It will depend, of course, if the leader comes through and puts another lap on them. And that's one of the difficulties, Bruce, in this form of racing, as one of the SP9 cars goes through, two of the SP9 Audis dragging past that battle on the Dottinger Höhe, as a minor class, as not the lead class in any endurance race, you haven't got the same amount of laps as you think. It's not your lap and where you are on the lap at the time that the time elapses that counts. It's where the leader is, and therefore you're trying to hit a moving target. The time is what you have to look at rather than the laps.
It is. It's almost counterintuitive, because most forms of racing, you know the parameters, but parameters can shift more here than almost any other circuit in the world, down to the fact that it's close on 25 kilometers long, and therefore the difference in finishing time, as you said, could be 8 minutes at the tail of the field, it could be 10 minutes, and that's an enormous amount of variable. And if you're trying to decide your fuel tactic, you could just get squeezed into one lap, or maybe just squeeze into the next, but you can fall short, and that's the thing. It really, really does control of the pace for some of these cars on that final lap, or whether they get onto the final lap, and it's a variable they all have to be aware of. And for the NLS, the Nurburgring Langstrecken Series, waiting to get it started in the flesh this year, it's something all the teams have to be very, very aware of, because it can undo all the good you do. It's a bit like doing the perfect lap, shaving a tenth off at every second corner and then dropping it at the final corner of the lap. It can so easily unravel, so you definitely have to have someone whose eye is perpetually on the countdown to the end of the race.
See if we can pick up some driver interviews here, if I can manage the technology here. And I think we've got Gustas with us in the waiting room. Gustas, can you hear John Hindhaugh in the radio booth?
Almost.
Just over the top of the car noise in the background. Gustas, tell us a little bit about your race and how it's playing out.
Well, it's different to what I'm used to racing in the Asian and European Le Mans series, but it's a fun track, a fun car. We've been struggling a bit on pace, but the most important thing is it's fun, and now Marcus is back in the car. He's a bit quicker, and we're trying to hunt down a few more places that are right at the end here.
You're in the 399 Sim Racing Channel Black team with Marcus Deck, as you mentioned. Marcus taking the car to the end. The GT4 Cayman class, very, very competitive right the way through the field.
Yeah, it's super close, the whole class, and it's as you can see at the end of the race, we're still fighting for positions. So I think it's amazing.
The level of driving generally here, as you said, you're a real world racer. A lot of our listeners will recognise your name from the ACO series. The level of driving and commitment here in the virtual world is absolutely outstanding, and your hat's off to everybody here.
Absolutely. These guys are incredibly quick wherever you go, whatever track you come to on iRacing. They're setting times that you think sometimes are impossible. So really hats off to them, and what they can do with these GT4 cars around the Nürburgring is really, really impressive.
How close the driving style to a GT4 car in real life? Now, I'll say, because I've spoken to drivers before, that you set every car up differently for the Nürburgring than you would for what we might call a traditional track. So some of the same engineering traits don't actually translate from, say, a nice smooth track like Silverstone to the Nordschleife. But in general terms, how does the driving style of the cars compare?
Well, I haven't driven a GT car myself in the real world, but comparing the prototypes on iRacing, they're definitely really similar, and the way you can use the downforce of the car, you really feel it. Obviously, no G-forces like in the real thing, but this is as close as it gets.
And that is a problem for a real-world driver. I've spoken to Nicky Katz, spoken to Berg and Spengler and some of the top guys. Levels are actually quite high, probably even higher on the sim, because you can't feel those Jim.
Yeah, I think for us coming from the real car into the sim is maybe a little bit more difficult, because you can't feel the car under you. So you have to trust everything in the wheel and pedals and your vision. So it's rethinking the way you drive, but I don't think there's anything much closer right now while we're stuck at home.
Well, listen, we've really enjoyed having you here. I'm pleased you've enjoyed your experience. You're going to come back and do some more?
I think so. I hope so. I've really enjoyed it. Learned the Nordschleife in a few weeks here. So hopefully next round I can come back even quicker.
All the best for you and the team from the Sim Racing Channel Black, the 399. That's Gustas Grinbergas, Marcus Deck taking the car at the end. Thanks, Gustav.
Thank you, John.
So, bit of a pit lane interview there. I got the microphone a bit closer towards the end of that there. So we're working on that. The battle, by the way, that was going on in the background there that you could hear whilst we were talking to Gustas, was for second and third in the class in which he is racing, and they're absolutely together as they're heading up towards the top of the hill and the Caracciola carousel. And we've seen this before, Bruce, with this category. It's so difficult to pass because the cars obviously are very, very equal indeed, being a single manufacturer class.
Exactly so, and Lennart Hartenberg has been one of the stars in the class, but Finn Joni Takanen is in front of him and staying there for VRS Coanda Simsport, covered by 0.2 of a second, but Hartenberg is trying literally at every fourth corner to make a move. They've got a GT3 class car coming past them, but up front, just when we went away for the interview with Gustas Grinbergas, it was a BMW leading the race, but it was Team BMW Bank, the 107 car. That made its final pit stop earlier than the 189 for BS competition, but Laurin Heinrich has now moved his way into the lead. He caught up with Kai Kashuba and has taken the lead, and Agustin Canapino, Marla Racing Team Audi, is 23 seconds down, and with 20 minutes remaining, that's really quite a mountain to climb. Laurin Heinrich had such a brilliant third quarter of the race, if you will. Looks like he's going to take it through to the finish as long as he has no mistakes. He's got the pace. His last lap, we're waiting for it to be completed, but he still has that 7-minute 53-second lap in the bag. That's why he found the pace. Coming out later after that final pit stop, he's hunted down Kai Kashuba and is now pulling clear. Really, really impressive run from Laurin.
That's Bruce Jones. I'm John Hindorf, and we are into the final stages, but with still some pit strategy to play out at the front of the field. Heinrich will come in at the end of and will give him a 2-lap run to the end. I don't think Heinrich can go to the end from here unless there's a huge amount of saving. But what about that Team BMW Bank car in second place? It's the dark grey car. Well, Kashuba, I think, can go to the end. I think he can do 2 more laps, and I think that's going to be huge. Meantime, a few moments ago, 2 BMWs fighting it out on the VCO replay for those of you who are watching the TV feed. It's all going to come down to who feels confident about the fuel. I can't believe Heinrich can do 2 more laps from here. I could be wrong, but I just can't see that happening. Kashuba is about to complete 6 laps this time around, so that might even be too tight for them. It's going to depend on when the time elapses, Bruce. They might have to have a splash coming into the last lap.
No, I'm expecting Kashuba in. I'm not expecting Heinrich in. Heinrich served that third pit stop. Kashuba's car has only done 2. He's
sorry, Heinrich's just got in. That was an outlap.
Seconds.
Sorry, Heinrich, that's an outlap for Heinrich. My apologies.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
So he's now back in the lead of the race, done his pit stops. For Kashuba for the 107 BMW from Team BMW Bank, alas, it feels like a false position.
But that also means then that the Valkenhorst 34 and the Vodafone number 2, the Get Speed car, they're all good to the end. HTP Winwood, good to the end. What about Adrenaline E Motorsport? Do you know they might be tight on fuel as well? They have done.
No, I think they're
I
running
think they
at
can do
standard.
it. Yeah,
it's only the BMW Bank car that I think has got to come and visit its crew. Let's see, maybe doing it this time around, enjoying the battle, no doubt, with Laurin Heinrich. But Heinrich goes on to another lap, and so does Kai Kashuba.
Well, Kashuba's gone on to another lap. That is then that is completed his 7th. Well, that means he's going to do an 8-lap stint. So surely he can't make a 9. And with 17 minutes to go, that takes him out of the running.
If it was 16 minutes to go, he might still be in it, but 17 is just too far, I'm afraid. That means an extra lap.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So Heinrich looking good for BS competition, the 189 car. Philipp Eng did 6 laps. Alexander Voss did 6 laps. Heinrich did 7 laps and then stopped with, I think, a short fill and no tyres is what I'm guessing there, to go to the end to keep their track position. Very interesting. Very interesting. Who else is in this? Well, Agustin Canapino is 25 seconds further back down the road, and with an 18 second gap between himself and Sam Michaels in the Valkenhorst 34. They're all fueled to the end, as is Philipp Eng, number 2 of Philip Noller, excuse me. Jack Sedgwick is fueled to the end as well. My worry is for the adrenaline car. The adrenaline car might make it, it might not. It depends where it is when the leader crosses the line, or where the leader is rather, when time expires. 2 laps to go for the leader is what we're predicting now in the classes. VRS Coanda Sim Sports in the 911 Cup has Josh Rogers back at the wheel of the car and back in the lead of the class, the number 208. The Porsche 718 GT4 Sindra Satsas for Core Sim Racing leads the Cup 3 class, and the TCRs in the Audi for Sim Racing, Sim RC TCR, Johannes Maivorm behind the wheel of that car. So 3 big names leading the 3 other classes, VRS Coanda Core and Sim RC, all at the moment top of their respective piles, but at the front, Lauren Heinrich for BS Competition holding that 1.2 second lead. But I'm with you, Bruce. I just can't see that BMW bank car now making it to the end without another visit down the lane.
No, I think that's as good as guaranteed. Absolutely so. So I'm afraid they started down in, I think it was 11th position. No, sorry, 13th position or some such. And, they did ride up, but they ran the very different tactics to everyone else. And I did say a while ago, I felt it was a false position, them being up in the lead of the race. They're still there in second place, but not for long, for sure. But Lauren Heinrich, again, just waiting for his next lap time to come in. He just does quick sectors almost at will. No wonder the BMW's leading the race for BS Competition. Philipp Eng started, Alexander Voss did the second stint, but third and fourth stints, a long one and a short one for Lauren Heinrich, and he's absolutely making the most of it, looking really strong. You just mentioned a short while ago, Josh Rogers leading the Porsche 911 Cup class in 13th place overall. It's nearly half a minute to the good over the Manthey Racing entry of Martin Brunker. Another driver who started the race, but Josh Rogers has just been supreme in the 911 Cup class. Hats off to him in the 718, the Cayman class. Sindri Setsas leading the way, 11 seconds to the good, so tidy margin. And TCR, Johannes Maiver, Sim RC TCR Racing, only 4.5 seconds to the good though. So Team Hoyt belt with Michael Struckler closing in there. But Lauren Heinrich up the front of the field, yes, only leading by 1.5 seconds, but with the car behind with Kai Kashuba, likely to happen a bit, almost definitely it's looking good.
Yeah, so Heinrich came in at the end of lap 19, which, my apologies, I missed that. I thought he'd gone on to another lap there. That's another tab that I really needed to have open.
Gustos Grinbergas. So
yes,
fully understood.
Good point. Good point. Behind Josh Rogers, by the way, Martin Kroenke, Mac Backham, and are still having a canny little battle there for second and third. There's only 2 seconds between them, in respectively the 299 from Manthey and the VRS Coanda, second of the VRS Coanda Porsches. And as far as the 718 category is concerned, the leader, as you mentioned, but in second, Hartenberg is only 0.6 ahead of Takinen. Those two have been tied together for ages, and that's the battle that you're seeing if you've got your pictures up at the moment. And only 3 seconds further back is Carl Janssen for Core Racing. So if that goes horribly wrong, there's a potential podium for Core there to make it 2 cars on the podium again, as we saw a fortnight ago. In TCR, the Sim Racing car is leading, Sim RC TCR is leading Team Heisenfeld by 4 seconds, and 2 seconds further back, guess what, another car, another core car. So those 3 as well, probably looking nailed on with 17 seconds back to the 4th position machine of Joker Sim Racing Orange and Marcus Eichhorn. But as yet, the actual step to stand on may well be still up for grabs.
Last time around, I mean not last time around, the last lap, I'm talking about 2 weeks ago, Carl Janssen made a fabulous charge at the end of the race to move up to 2nd place in the Porsche Cayman class, and he's in 4th, as you mentioned, John, but he's really got his sights on the attack. So quick that he's Carl Janssen coming super strong towards the end of the race, but it really is almost the end of the race. 10.5 minutes remaining. Can he do it again and get onto the class podium in the Cayman class? Let's see.
Just getting a little bit of a connection issue with Bruce there, as more people around the world are jumping on the internet and around the UK as well. Bruce and I observing a little more than 2 meters, 6'6" distancing, social distancing at the moment, but all part of the RSL Global comms box. Broadcast centre can be spread far and wide nowadays, and the technology working brilliantly well with our colleagues from Germany, firing us the pictures back as well. And it is the same team who look after us for the real world in the NLS. So thanks to the Michaels and the rest of the team for some excellent work again through practice, qualifying, and indeed the race. Tim Gray, our executive producer in our London main control room. So we really are spread to the wilds here, and the responsible adult who of course is everywhere. There comes Kashuba into the pits. It was just 1 lap too long. They gambled and it hasn't paid off for them. They were looking at 21 laps. It's going to be 22 laps. I think we could pretty much see that, Bruce, from half distance when we'd done the 11, but they were hoping perhaps that the pace in the second half of the race, with people gambling on running their tyres a bit longer, might have dropped. It really hasn't, and they are going to, I think they might well lose the podium here, as Canapino's gone through. 30 seconds now, the gap between Heinrich and Canapino. So Canapino in the Marla Racing Audi has not closed down the leader. We're waiting for Sam Michaels now in the Valken horse car, the 2-tone machine. There he goes across the machine, across the line. And did he pit? No, he's gone through.
Looks like there's a Walken horse car in the pits as well.
Yes, I thought so. But that's, well, out
could
goes
be the sister
Kashuba.
car.
Could be the sister car, yes. Who are have dropped down a little bit, haven't they, in the second?
But even as we speak, John, I'm afraid for the 107 crew, the team BMW Bank, one member of the team metaphorically is being put in the corner to face the ball with a pointy hat with D on the front, D for dunce. They got their sums wrong there, but it was worth a shot. They were way down the order, but they were asking rather too much. The fact they missed it by about 8.5, 9 minutes shows they weren't even close, really, in terms of, I guess, estimation.
Well, and they'll have to look at their tactics there. Spengler did 7, Niels Koch did 7, Kashuba did 7, but that has left them with a lap shy. And when you look at BS, Philippe M did 6, Alessandro Voss did 6, Heinrich did 7 and pitted, and he's going to have then a 4-lap run to the flag. And what they will have done then, I'm guessing, I mean, maybe we have a word with Lauren Heinrich at the end of this to find out whether they left the tyres on to do an 11-lap run at the end. Sam Michaels, it was Sam Michaels that came through. I thought it was in the 34 Total car, and currently that car with the number 4 on it when it crossed the line, because of course the 107, the Team BMW Bank car, had already split the beam in the pit lane, but that car is running third. Philip Noller has gone up in the bright red Vodafone Team Get Speed EMG number 2 car. That has gone up into 4th position, and that is good to the end as well. The Adrenaline E-Motorsports car, David Greisner, I think he's just stopped as well at the end of his 7 laps, so he'll drop down. Yeah, he has already dropped down the field, hasn't he? So he's been in for his last stop, and that's why he dropped out of the top 6. So now it's all about, Bruce, the 12 seconds between 4th and 3rd, Nolle to Michaels, 18 seconds between Michaels to Canapino, 3rd to 2nd, 28.5 seconds Canapino to Heinrich for the lead. So it's all now looking at those 12 sector times to see who is pinching half a second here and half a second there. At those gaps, that's not enough. You've got to be looking for 3 or 4 seconds where something's happened, haven't you?
Entirely so. And I was just having a quick look to work out the situation with Falcon Horse Motorsport. Sam Michaels, as you pointed out, running through in 3rd place, but the one we could see sitting at pit exit was the sister car with Mikkel Jensen back on board, but it's been stationary for 16 minutes. That's why it's outside the top 40. So all went wrong after Christian Cronjes handed it over, but it's all going right for Laurin Heinrich for BS competition. Again, putting in quick laps, 30 seconds, well, he's nearly 28.5 seconds clear of Agustin Canapino, 5 seconds precisely remaining until the checkered flag could be dropped, but it's a question of when it will be dropped. It'll be 5 minutes plus however much of the lap is still required for Laurin Heinrich. Brings the BS competition BMW round at the end of the race. So they've got their sums right, and the unfortunate spill for Agustin Canapino has been sorted, so they'll bounce back and take a 2nd place to add to their 3rd place in round 2, and that sort of put them right at the sharp end of the field. But don't forget, BS competition will be further ahead because they've been 2nd last time around. Yeah. 2nd and 1st is better than 3rd and 2nd, but they'll be pulling clear of the rest of the pack in the GT3 class in the championship table. But this championship got plenty more rounds to run through the course of the season, 8 rounds in all. And we've had the first one, had the second, and we very nearly had the third. But we're starting to see the teams that can really deliver on a consistent basis.
Yeah, that the Canapino error that meant he came in at the start of lap 3, just a couple of laps for him, then 7 by Arana, and in the end, it is going to be a 5-lap run for Canapino. So he's done his 7 laps, which is probably 7 or 8 laps rather. Yes, he came in at the end of 3, excuse me. He's done his 8 laps, but not in the way that it's helped the team. There was too much ground lost early on when he was, of course, leading. Let's not forget, qualified, practiced and qualified with the top time. At the end of the race, we'll try and grab some of the drivers for you. 3 minutes remaining. So where is the BS competition car on the track? Just heading up to, well, let me just see. Right, 17k. He's going to have to do another lap. He's going to have to do another lap coming through to the mid part of the end part rather at Flugplatz. Sorry, at Flansgarden. So that's where there will be an extra lap, Bruce. So we are going to go on to lap number 22. Still the deranged left-hand rear wing on the Canapino car, and he's not catching the leader.
No, Laurin Heinrich is able to just keep putting in laps in 7 minutes, 53, 54, 53. Super smooth at the front of the race. 30 seconds, nearly 31 seconds to good over Canapino's Audi. What could have been the spin out of the lead? Was there a push from Philipp Eng? Can't tell you. But I think there might have been a second incident as well that dropped him down towards the tail of the top 10 and that early pit stop. And it's the fact they've got back to 2nd place shows that both Canapino and notably absolutely brilliant. They've come good. It looks like they can take the next lap.
It's Brace Jones there as we're heading towards the last lap for the leader. There is a battle going on between Philip Knoll, who's trying to close down on Sam Michaels. He's got within 11.5 seconds, but he's been pushed along by Kai Kashuba in the Team BMW bank car, the 107. He's just half a second further back, so 4th and 5th pretty close together on the circuit and closing down ever so slightly on 3rd. Now, a moment or two ago, scary moment as one of the Porsches, now was that a push by Canapino? That's one of the 718s. Got to be careful not to rack up the incident points, of course, towards the end of the race as well. 20 incident points get you a run into the pit lane, and then every 5 after that. So Sam Michaels, 3rd position. Now 10.5 seconds from Philippe Knoll in the Vodafone team Get Speed car. That's the bright red and white ENG GT3. Meantime, leader is on his last lap. Lauren Heinrich, BS competition. I'm fascinated now. It looks like Canapino hasn't got the pace to close that gap down. Sam Michaels, 17.5, call it 18 seconds further back in 3rd place in the number 34 Valkenhorst car. But then it's now 9.5 seconds. Philip Knoll is taking time out of the BMW. I wonder if this is a difference in tyre strategy. Philip Knoll stopped a lap later in the Vodafone team Get Speed car, 7 laps from Fabian Schiller. Oh, what's just happened there? Fabian Schiller 7, Rafael Marciello I think just 5, then Philippe Knoll 7, and Philippe now going to the end. So I wonder if there's a difference in tyres there between Knoll in the Vodafone team's Get Speed 8 MG. He's down to 9.5 seconds back from Michaels, but they are on the last lap. But he's got with him Kai Kashuba, who's right up his tailpipes. That's the battle for 5th and 4th position, and that's not over yet. Call it 3rd, 4th and 5th actually.
Well, I don't think you'll have to, John, because I think Sam Michaels is delighted that Philip Knoller has got his hands full with Kai Kashuba. Right. Kai is really, really pushing. So I think Sam, though the gap is coming down, even as I look at the timing screen, another few tenths go away from him, he should have enough in hand, because Philip Knoller has got a very, very busy next 5 minutes of this race, trying to keep Kai Kashuba behind him. But for now, in 4th place, it's the Vodafone team Get Speed Mercedes, but the dark grey Team BMW Bank BMW with Kai Kashuba is really, really under that rear wing, literally.
56.2 last time around for the leader, fastest in the top 10. That car has the fastest lap of the race, a 7:53.8. Fastest laps in the classes, VRS Coanda Porsche number 208, Josh Rogers inside, oh not quite, 13th position. I was going to say inside the top dozen for the leading 911 Cup car. As far as the the GT4s, the fastest lap goes to the, at the moment, the 304 Core Racing car in 6th position. Still Sindre Satsas leading, but being closed down on by Joni Takkanen in the VRS Coanda car, and he's dragging Lennart Hartenberg in the Huizingveld 301, just 2 tenths behind them. That's not over. 1st, 2nd and 3rd separated by under 4 seconds in the GT4 Porsche category, and then in the TCRs 6.5 seconds 1st to 2nd, and that's the Sim RC versus Huizingveld team, but just 3 tenths between Huizingveld and Patrick Kubinich in the Core Sim Racing number 403. So there are still battles out on the circuit which will be decided after the leader has gone through, provided of course he doesn't lap them as he comes through. And that is again, Bruce, one of the vagaries here. With it being such a long lap, those guys may be on their penultimate lap at the moment. They may not have even started their last lap, those battles in the sundry classes.
No, quite so. It seems unfair on them to have this sort of, not quite the sword of Damocles, but something hanging over them at the end that just prevents them from completing their run as they were hoping to do. But one thing I just noticed, we talked about a short while ago about Carl Janssen, who moved to second in the Cayman class right at the end last time we went racing 2 weeks ago, but this time he's fallen from fourth in class to sixth, so it hasn't been a good final stint for him, but certainly not matching the pace of his teammate Sindri Setsas. But Sindri still busy, 3.5 seconds to good. But Joni Takkanen has really shone for VRS Commander Simsport in this class. He's second in class, is closing in as the clock has reached the end of 3 hours. It's just get it to the checkered flag at the end of this lap. How many positions will change? Not the race leader, because he's 35 seconds to good. Lauren Heinrich halfway round to that. Got this under control, John.
Yeah, and actually, unusually, has had a pretty clear lap on this last lap. You could probably count the cars he's had to go around, if not quite in the fingers of one hand, but certainly you wouldn't need much of the second hand to do that. Now, Team Get Speed right up underneath the rear wing, and the Kai Kashuba's gone by. That's a change of position for fourth. Kai Kashuba's gone by the bright red car. We thought Nolle was pushing for a podium, but in fact he's lost fourth position in the dark grey BMW bank car just as they're heading up towards the Caracciola carousel on the run up from Bergwerk. Makes the pass, and that is a new fourth position on the last lap, so some recompense for the number 107 car that just didn't quite get the tactics right. They've certainly have the pace, that Team BMW bank car today, Bruce Jones, but didn't quite get the sums right.
Yeah, that's what it came down to, but starting as they did way down, sort of in the second half of the pack for the GT3 cars that run in the top class, and then the sourcing out on the opening lap with a handful of spinners as early as the second corner when Bruno Spengler went round. It was always difficult for them from there, so they made a bold bid. It hasn't worked, but certainly they'll be very, very encouraged by the pace of Kai Kashuba in particular in the closing stage of the race. And Niels Koch wasn't exactly slow behind the wheel when he took over from Spengler, so the pace is there for next time, perhaps.
Well, it's a great sight when you come through that triple apex right-hander at Gallenkopf to come onto the Dottinger here and down towards the Bilstein Bridge for the 22nd and last time. Pretty much a perfect run by the BS Competition 189 team. The car started by the Philipp Eng. Alexander Voss took the middle stint, and Lauren Heinrich has brought the car home into the last couple of corners now. No need to push too hard, no need to ride the curb, no need to worry your teammate. BS Competition will come through and win round 3 of the DNLS, powered by VCO. Behind them, bit of a scrap going on there, was for a minor place. I think that was for position there. Those two GT3 cars that were battling to the line. So Heinrich comes through in the lead. It should be in second position Augustin Canapino. Bit of redemption for them in second place. The Marla Racing team, they had the pace today, but they didn't quite get it right yet. There'll be a matter of what ifs, damage for this car coming through. Now in second place, Canapino comes through in the 186. He started it, had problems. Alex Arena took the middle 2 stints and handed it back to his teammate to finish it off. Fastest lap of the race going to the winner. But there was no doubt about the pace of that Audi. Sam Michaels for Valkenhorst flashes the lights on the way through and closing down to just 7 seconds at the end, away from a podium position. Kai Kashuba for Team BMW Bank, a second and a half ahead of Philip Nolle for Vodafone Team Get Speed, and the best of the AMGs. Then HTP Winwood make up the top 6. Good finishing run by Jack Sedgwick. The top 10, Race Union in 7th for Florian Baudin. Marcel Markovic and his team for Schnitzel Arm Racing in 8th for the number 11 car. David Greisner Adrenaline Motorsport didn't get their tactics right either, running inside the top 6, the 1-2-2 for Ireland. Jan Sentowski will be the next car across the line for Team Huizingwald 101 to make up the top 10. Those last couple still to cross the line. In the TCR class, Sim RC TCR have done the job, it would seem, Bruce, with Johannes Maiverm some 7.5 seconds ahead of a cracking battle from Michael Schottler and Patrick Kubisch for Core Racing. Schottler for Team Huizingwald, still only a tenth of a second between those two.
Yeah, that actually helped Maiverm. Was the fastest around the final lap out of that trio, but the battle behind was very, very intense. But Kubic just sort of in there or thereabouts. But Johannes Maiverm for Sim RC TCR, thank you very much. He'll say, I'll take those points.
Josh Rogers with an 8-second advantage in the 208 VRS Coanda car. Yet to come across the line, I think. Martin Kronker and Martin Asher will make up the podium there, unless Jeremy Bouteloup can do something. It was only 4 seconds back as they started their last lap, so perhaps still an opportunity for a place change there in the Porsche 911 Cup class. Maiverm in the Audi about halfway round the lap. Just checking in with the other Porsche class. Still only 4 seconds between the top 3 there. Setsas, Takkanen and Hartenberg in the 303, 308 and 301 for Core, VRS and Huizingwald. That's still a decent battle, and there's certainly nobody is counting any kind of chickens in that one as we wait for the classes to come in. Richard Westbrook, by the way, coming home in 11th position for Phoenix Racing Esport. He ran a half marathon this morning, as many members of the British Racing Drivers Club did, in isolation, didn't do it as a pack, all raising money for health charities in the UK. Philip Schallenberg will come through in 12th for Racing Fuel Academy. Dominic Stibe, what a difference a two-week period makes. Williams Esports on top of the world 2 weeks ago, down in 13th position this time out. Whilst we're waiting for the minor classes to come in, Bruce, what will you take away from this one? We've had 3 races now, and we're starting to see, I think, some hierarchy develop in the DNLS powered by VCO.
Well, none more so than the 2 cars at the top of the table. The BS competition, BMW, second last time, first this time. And Mahler Racing Team with their Audi, second last. Sorry, they were. What am I talking about? They were third last time, they're second this time. They took.
Just break in for a second, Bruce, if I may, because we have now got confirmation of another class winner that we can talk to as well. It is Sindre Setsas in the Porsche 718 GT4s. Sindre, congratulations. Can you hear me? It's Hindhoff here in the booth. Let's try that again. Sindre, can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah.
I can.
Hello, mate. Well, a bit happier this week than you were 2 weeks ago. Congratulations for you and the Core Racing team.
Thank you very much. It was actually way too close than what I anticipated, because we were leading by about 17 seconds there with 2 laps to go, and literally just cruising towards the end. And then a certain Dries Vantor decided to just ram us into Vloerplaats, and I wall rode the wall on the outside of Vloerplaats and picked up damage and had to drive for my life the last 2 laps.
The Vantor boys haven't covered themselves in glory the last 2 E-races that I've commentated on. I never thought I'd hear the words uttered that Lawrence Vantor was a moving chicane, but he wasn't. WeatherTech, Nick Damon calling him out on that. Ultimately, the right result. What was the difference this week to 2 weeks ago with you and the team?
Well, last time we had our car had damage from very early on. This time we kept the car cleaner, ran more consistently because of it, and then managed to bring it home in the end, even though we were very close to getting it stolen away from us.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, the ones that you have to fight for are a little bit sweeter. Good points for the championship as well. We'll see you for the next one, Sindre, yeah?
Yes, and I want to shout out the other Force Sim Racing team as well, who were very unlucky in the end there and dropped.
Yeah, what happened to them? Because we saw them run. You were both on the podium for quite a lot of the race.
Yeah, Carl jumped in the car in the final stints, and he had an incident with another car, I think, and he picked up a lot of damage, so he dropped 4 or 5 places in the end, I think. So yeah, not the outcome we were searching for, but then again, the TCR car from us finished second today, so still good in both classes.
All right, mate, listen, good. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Congratulations. And delighted to say that joining us for some post-race interviews, Joni Takinen as well. Joni, tell us about your race today. It's signed off here in the radio booth. Hi, Joni, can you hear us? Oh, yes, you can.
No, I can't hear us. There is so much background noise.
Sorry. Second position for you in the VRS Coanda Sim Sport team. Tight race though. You guys just 4 seconds to top 3 at the end of the race there. Couldn't quite get on terms with Sindre though.
There is still so much background noise that I can't hear anything. Just wait a second.
There you go. As everybody comes through.
Now I can hear you.
Looked like you might have a chance of catching Sindre. He got nerfed off in the last couple of laps by one of the SP9 cars, but you couldn't quite get on and challenge him at the end. Second place though.
Yeah, I'm pretty good about the second place. Our car felt pretty good, but my place was not on the par for victory. So this is very awesome that we got to P2.
What do you think the problem was? Did you have damage, or was it just a setup issue?
I don't know if it was about setup. I think it's my lack of practice. I didn't get to practice that much this week because I was working in another city and I didn't get a chance to drive that much.
Well, we wish you all the best. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. You're back for the next one in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. So, that was a very tight battle there, Bruce, in that Porsche class. We've seen that before. Top 3 within 4 seconds as they went across the line. And let's
we said it'd be tight at the start of the race, and we weren't fibbing, were we? Really? It never ever fails to deliver.
Now what happened at the end? Because there was a change at the end in that Porsche class. Oh no, sorry, that's the Porsche 911 class that I was just looking at the results for that. Let's quickly run through the top 3 in each category for you. If I get any more interviews, I'll throw them in. But let's wrap things up here with Augustin Canapino and the Marla Racing team beating Valkenhorst into second by nearly a minute at the end of the race. Kai Kashuba. Right, what's happened there? We've lost one of the top 3 because the Kashuba Nole pass was for BS Competition are demoted. BS Competition, the race winners, are being scored in 6th position. Now, that's a post-race penalty, I reckon, there, Bruce. And I haven't got the race channel up, but that is then a win for Marla Racing Team, is showing on my screen at the moment.
They must have been given next closest thing to a 2-minute penalty.
Yes. Correct.
Now, what I want to know, and I raised this very early in the race, and I could be completely wrong, was running in second place in the hands of Philippe Eng when Agustin Canapino was leading. Agustin Canapino was in a spin. I never got to see a replay of the incident, if indeed one was screened. That's my guess, that they might have been given a penalty for contact there, if that's what happened. Other than that, I didn't see anything untoward. There was a bit of Philippe Ellis, Philippe Eng fighting together, the HTB Winwood Mercedes. Did anything happen there? We saw the nose of the 48 Mercedes was damaged. So I'm just trying to think of situations that might have led to that penalty. But yeah, first has become 6th.
Right, absolutely. So Marla from Valkenhorst from Team BMW Bank, and Philip Noller then will be really kicking himself because he's just lost a podium position then in the last few moments. I will do the rest of the classes in a moment. Let's have some more interviews very quickly here in the closing stages here. and we've got Josh Rogers from the number 208, the Coanda car, with us. Josh, welcome to the broadcast booth. Tell us a little bit about your race with Michael. You and Michael. In fact, we'll get Michael in as well. I noticed that he's in there as well. You guys, I wouldn't say you had it all your own way, Josh, but you seem to be leading an awful lot of the time. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. That was a race that had everything basically. It was a little bit challenging with the traffic sometimes. Obviously, trying to manage things as best as we could without taking too many risks, but also trying to make up as much time as possible. But all in all, it was a fun race, and I think good. It's always good to be able to race with the caliber of guys in there.
I detect an Antipodean accent there. Are you actually at home, or are you based in Europe? And if you are at home, what time of the day is it, for goodness sake?
Yeah, no, we're based in Europe now, which is fantastic. Makes things a little bit easier. Definitely, in the past it's been a struggle, but I think for Mitchell it's some ungodly hour in the morning being over in California. But yeah.
Well done, and we've got the other half of the team on there as well. The winning team from the 911 Cup class, Mitchell de Jong. Mitchell, congratulations. We expect to see tight racing there. 8 seconds at the end. Doesn't sound a lot, but again, I would say it was comfortable. You guys had to keep pushing, but did you feel like you were controlling the race?
Once you're out front, it's always, the better position. You don't have to kind of work for, getting ahead of the other guy. So definitely it's always a little bit better. You have the concern of, managing traffic well, not taking too many risks, and just kind of keeping the gap where you're kind of safe. And, Josh handed the car over to me with a huge lead. So I kind of just had the easy job of just trying not to bin the car. So everything went well. No real drama on my end. And, feels good to come away with the win.
Thanks, mate. Enjoy the rest of the day, night, whatever it is. A very early morning for you, I guess, over in California. Thanks very much. Well done on the win, you two. And let's bring in Bruno Spengler, who's with us now for the Team BMW Bank team. Didn't look like it had gone your way early on, Bruno. Tell us a little bit about those opening laps. What the heck happened, mate? That was a bit more robust than we've seen in the past.
Yeah, that was super robust, man. First of all, nice to talk to you again. Yeah, I mean, I started from P12, I think, and then after turn 1, I got taken out pretty badly immediately. Was last, and then came back up, made my way back up to 12 again, or 13, and then Mercedes pushed me off in the on the Grand Prix track, spun me around. Then I was again pretty far behind, so made my way back up to P11, and gave the steering wheel to my teammate Niels, who came back up to P7 or P8, sorry, and then Kai at the end also did an amazing job and brought the car into P4, really, because at the end I think the winners are the BS competition. They did an amazing job, but they got.
Well, Pete, I see they've got some kind of post-race penalty, so that looks like you're in P3 now. I'm not sure what the penalty's about, unless you can tell me.
Yeah, I think they are still discussing at the moment. So I think the best is you ask them, because I'm not too sure. They are still discussing it at race control. But yeah, at the end we are P3. So I mean, starting from where we started after everything that happened, coming in the top 5 was for us a great achievement. And now being P3 is great. We're super happy, and thanks to my super fast teammates. Niels and Kai, they did an amazing job, super consistent, mega fast. I have a lot to learn from them on this track, but every day I'm getting better, so it's fun. I like it. It was a good race for us.
And you were, I think, just 1 lap short of going to the end there, which might have turned into a victory. Were you thinking 21 laps, or did you know you were always going to have to make that last pit stop?
So we were always like in between the two before the race. We were like, should we try and save and and not do this last stop, or should we just push through? And as you said, it was super close, and at the end we took the decision to keep pushing and just go for it. I don't know if that would have worked for the win, because you have to you have to remove quite a lot. You have to slow down quite a lot to
Yes.
save enough fuel. So I don't know if it would have worked. But like I said, I think we can be very happy with the result of today. It's tough out there, with the traffic and everything. But it's good fun. I like it. I'm getting more and more experienced.
Yeah, you're getting a habit of being on the podium, Bruno. Well done for Thursday night on the IMSA one as well, and best
Thank you.
to your teammates as well. Second position for Valkenhorst. We've got David Pittard with us as well. 7 seconds in the end, away from the BMW Bank car. Sam Michaels brought it home in style there, David. Everything go to plan for you? It seldom does on the Nordschleifer, in fairness.
Well, the past couple of races that we've done, I have been the weak link in the team. My teammates Scott Michaels and Sam Michaels are absolutely rapid, and they've been very patient and helped me a lot. Just listening to Bruno, then I'm in the exact same boat as him. I'm being carried by these guys and learning lots all the time. But yeah, the race went pretty well. It was a little bit more dramatic than the past couple of races, with cars sort of flying off left, right, and centre. So yeah, my aim was just to keep it clean and basically get the car to Sam and Scott. And once it was in their hands, I knew that they were going to do a mega job. And yeah, it's brilliant to see the caliber of drivers in this series and how serious everyone's taking it. But yeah, we're the same here at Valkenhorst. Nick Konigbauer, the team boss, has been really on our cases to make sure that we absolutely nail the race. And both cars were in the top 5 until the final half hour, I think. So, no, really good.
What happened to your team car? Because they were looking pretty good, and then they had a very long pit stop. I take there was some incident to that. Do you know what happened?
Yeah, there's an incident with the 48 car, the adrenaline car, I think. No, the HCP car, sorry.
Yeah,
So, that was on T13, so the first corner on the Nordschleife. So they then had to nurse the car back the whole lap. So it's a bit killer for them. But no, it's great showing for both Valkenhorst cars.
All right, mate. We'll see you at the next one. Good to speak to you, David. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Great to hear your voices back on the airwaves again. Great to have Radio Le Mans on board for this championship. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We're enjoying it a lot, as you can probably tell from our demeanour. Let's have Martin Asher from the number 227 Asher Racing car in the Porsche Cup class. Well done, Martin. How was the race for you today?
Yeah, thank you very much. It was good fun. So the qualifying went pretty well, I have to say. We started from P3, and then I tried to not lose the train in front, but it was impossible with Joshua and Martin from Mantai Racing. So the thing was that we calculated our best possible strategy in the end. And with the new rule book, in our opinion, there's only one strategy. And we were wondering why the others didn't make it the same like us. So in the end, we gained a position and finished in P3.
What was the change in the rule book that made the strategy calls different for you?
You have to make 2 driver changes, and the maximum driving time is 2 hours. So we made 2 pit stops and only switched tires once. And in the end, yeah, it was pretty good for us. We are very happy.
Well, congratulations, podium finish, as you say, in the end, and that's decent points for the championship, just behind Mantai and VRS, 2 very, very strong teams. Well, I take it we'll see you at the next one, Martin.
Yeah, thanks. See you.
Cheers, mate. Have a good weekend. Bruce Jones been listening into that. I do like the way we can corral the drivers quickly after.
Quicker than real life.
Yes. Now that I've got the technology and I can move them around in virtual reality, it's much easier than doing it in real life, where wrangling drivers is a bit like akin to herding kittens, and that sometimes, as anyone who's had to do that job for a series will know. Your final thoughts, please, Bruce, on round 3 of the Digital NLS powered by VCO.
Different teams using different tactics, and teams also, as we saw in the case of the people first to finish BS competition, getting hit by penalties. Now, I've heard 2 things. One is it might have been they didn't use the correct number of tyres.
Right.
and the other might be Contact. Still haven't got to the foot of it, and we're running out of time. I've been desperately scrambling the screens, but they showed the pace. First two cars across the finish line. The Beers Competition, BMW, and the Marla Racing Audi were the class of the field this weekend. But for the rest of the teams, it's about learning how to get their tactics right. We've heard from various of the drivers about how they can do things differently. But this is a series that's maturing, and I think it's fantastic.
Well, the other thing that we found out there is, if we didn't already know, but even on a long track and a 3-hour race, how important qualifying is. Heard Bruno Spengler there. They've finished up provisionally in 3rd position for the team BMW Bank, but qualified outside the top 10, got involved in an incident early on, and that really put paid, you would have thought, to their chance of victory. They fought back for the moment for 3rd position for them. Valkenhorst in 2nd, and Marla Racing, as it stands provisionally, but with presumably some chatting going on behind the scenes, the Marla Racing team taking the top step of the podium. BS Competition hit with a post-race penalty. We'll round it all up and have the definitive answer for you on Wednesday at 8 o'clock on Midweek Motorsport on RS1, where we'll also have the VCO Victory Lane interviews. For Tim Gray, Bruce Jones, and me, John Hindhaugh, thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. Bye.